What if Goku got accidentally transported to the DC universe and had to team up with the Justice League to save not just one reality, but every single reality in existence? This concept is absolutely broken. We're talking about Goku, the guy who achieved Ultra Instinct and can shake universes, suddenly dropped into a world with Superman's planet-moving strength, Batman's prep time, and the Flash outrunning death itself. Imagine Goku trying to understand secret identities while Superman learns key sensing, or Batman analyzing martial arts that operate on impossible principles. So we took this insane power dynamic and threw them against the Void Weaver, an entity that wants to merge all realities and consume everything that ever existed. This is how a Saiyan warrior becomes guardian of two worlds, learns that true strength comes from unity through diversity, and discovers a new form of Ultra Instinct enhanced by interdimensional friendship. If this sounds epic, smash that like button, subscribe, and hit the notification bell. Alright, let's dive into this masterpiece. The afternoon sun cast long shadows across the rolling hills surrounding Capsule Corporation, where laughter and the sounds of friendly combat echoed through the air. It had been 3 months since the Tournament of Power, and life on Earth had settled into a comfortable rhythm of peace, the keen that always made Goku's fingers itch for a good fight. "Come on, Vegeta, you're holding back," Goku called out, dodging a vicious right hook that would have leveled a mountain. His orange gi fluttered in the wind as he backflipped through the air, grinning with pure joy. "I know you've been training." Vegeta's response was a growl of frustration followed by a barrage of ki blasts that lit up the sky like fireworks. "Shut up, Kakarot. I'm not holding back, you're just too dense to notice when I'm being serious." The Saiyan Prince powered up, his aura exploding outward in brilliant blue flames as he accessed Super Saiyan Blue. The transformation sent shockwaves rippling across the landscape, causing Chi-Chi to poke her head out of the kitchen window with an exasperated sigh. "Goku, you better not destroy Bulma's gravity chamber again," she shouted before disappearing back inside, muttering about husbands who never grew up. Goku laughed, the sound carrying genuine warmth. "Don't worry, Chi-Chi," he powered up to match Vegeta, his own blue aura crackling with divine ki. "We'll be careful." "Speak for yourself," Vegeta snarled, launching himself forward with explosive speed. Their fists met in the center of the training ground, creating a thunderclap that rattled windows for miles. This was what Goku lived for, the perfect balance of power, technique, and friendly rivalry. Even after all these years, Vegeta could still surprise him, still push him to new heights. They traded blows at superhuman speed, their movements creating light trails across the sky. Goku's martial arts flowed like water, each technique flowing seamlessly into the next, while Vegeta fought with the precision of a born warrior prince. Neither held the advantage for long. They were too evenly matched, too familiar with each other's fighting styles. "Kamehame," Goku began, cupping his hands at his side as blue energy swirled between his palms. "Don't you dare finish that in my face," Vegeta roared, his own Big Bang attack charging in response. But before either could release their signature techniques, the world simply stopped. Not slowed down, not frozen in time, stopped. The birds hung motionless in the sky, Vegeta's snarl caught mid-expression, even the wind ceased its gentle rustling through the trees. The only things that could move were Goku's eyes, darting around in confusion as his body remained locked in the Kamehameha pose. Then came the voice, high-pitched, childlike, and casually omnipotent in a way that made Goku's blood run cold. "Oh, there you are." Reality rippled like water as Zeno, the Omni-King, materialized in the air between them. His small, cherubic form was almost comical against the backdrop of frozen devastation. But Goku knew better than anyone how much power resided in that tiny frame. The being who could erase entire universes with a thought was smiling at him with innocent enthusiasm. "Zeno-sama," Goku managed to speak despite the temporal lock. "What brings you here? I was bored," Zeno announced, clapping his hands together with delight. "The Tournament of Power was so much fun, but now everything's quiet again. So I thought, what would make things interesting?" Goku felt a familiar chill of apprehension. Zeno's idea of interesting had once nearly resulted in the erasure of 8 entire universes. "Oh no," Goku whispered. "Oh yes," Zeno giggled, floating closer. "I was watching you fight and I thought, Goku's always so curious about strong people, so I decided to send you somewhere with lots of strong people." "Wait, Zeno-sama, maybe we should talk about this." But the Omni-King was already raising his tiny hand, reality beginning to fracture around his fingers like broken glass. "Don't worry, Goku, it'll be fun. I want to see what happens when you meet heroes from a completely different place." "Different place?" Goku's eyes widened. "You mean like another planet?" Zeno's smile grew impossibly wide. Something like that, bye-bye Goku. The world exploded into kaleidoscopic chaos. Goku felt his consciousness scattered across infinite possibilities, his body torn between dimensions as reality itself became fluid around him. He caught glimpses of countless worlds, universes where the sky was purple, where gravity flowed upward, where time moved backward. Each fragment of existence pressed against his mind, alien physics and impossible geometries threatening to tear apart his very soul. Through it all, one thought anchored him: I have to get back to my family. The journey felt like both an eternity and an instant before gravity suddenly reasserted itself with brutal authority. Clark Kent was having a perfectly ordinary Tuesday morning at the Daily Planet when the ceiling exploded. He'd been reviewing his notes on the latest corruption scandal in Metropolis City Hall, half listening to Perry White's perpetual complaints about deadlines, when every instinct he possessed suddenly screamed danger. His super hearing caught the whistling sound of something large moving at impossible speed directly above them. "Everyone down," Clark shouted, his journalist facade dropping as he moved with inhuman speed to shield his coworkers. The impact came a split second later. A figure crashed through 7 floors of the Daily Planet building, leaving a perfect human-shaped hole in each level before embedding itself in the lobby floor with enough force to crack the foundation. The shockwave shattered every window in a 3-block radius and set off car alarms across half of downtown Metropolis. When the dust settled, Clark found himself staring at a young man in an orange martial arts uniform, sitting in a crater that used to be the Daily Planet's reception area. The stranger was dusting debris off his wild black hair with casual indifference, as if falling through a skyscraper was a minor inconvenience. "Whoops," the stranger said, climbing out of the crater with an apologetic grin. "Sorry about your really tall house. Is everyone okay?" Clark blinked. In all his years as Superman, he'd never encountered anything quite like this. The man's energy signature was completely off the charts, easily on par with his own, yet his first concern was whether he'd hurt anyone. Clark's enhanced hearing could detect the stranger's heartbeat, steady and calm, radiating the kind of pure intention that Clark had learned to associate with true heroes. "I think so," Clark managed, looking around at his stunned coworkers. Lois was already pulling out her camera, her reporter instincts overriding any sense of self-preservation. "Are you hurt?" "Nah, I'm fine." The stranger stood up, brushing off his gi with practiced ease. "Though I have no idea where I am. This doesn't look like anywhere I've been before." That was when Clark noticed the tail. It was brown and furry, wrapped casually around the stranger's waist like a belt. Combined with the man's spiky black hair and the strange, almost primal energy Clark could sense radiating from him, it painted a picture that defied easy explanation. "You're not from around here, are you?" Clark asked carefully. "Well, I'm from Earth," the stranger replied, then paused, his expression growing confused. "But this doesn't look like my Earth. The buildings are all wrong, and I can sense all these weird energy signatures everywhere." He turned to look directly at Clark, and his eyes lit up with excitement. "Hey, you're really strong. I can feel it even though you're trying to hide it." Clark felt his breath catch. This stranger could sense his true power through his human disguise. That should have been impossible for anyone without magical abilities or advanced technology. "I don't know what you mean," Clark said automatically, falling back on years of practiced deflection. The stranger tilted his head like a confused puppy. "But why would you hide being strong? Are you a martial artist too?" "Oh. Are those glasses supposed to be some kind of secret technique?" He reached out as if to examine Clark's frames. "Do they help you focus your ki?" "My what?" Clark took a step back, genuinely bewildered. "Your ki. Your life energy." The stranger's enthusiasm was infectious. "Everyone has it, but most people can't control it. You've got tons of it, though. It's really warm and bright like..." He paused, searching for the right words. "Like someone who really cares about protecting people." Clark stared at this impossible person who had just described his entire personality through some kind of energy reading. Before he could respond, Perry White's voice boomed across the destroyed lobby. "Kent, what in the Sam Hill is going on down there?" "I should probably pay for the damage," the stranger said, reaching into his gi and pulling out a small pouch. He opened it to reveal strange, unfamiliar coins. "Will Zenny work here? I've got about 500 on me." "Zenny," Clark echoed. "Yeah, you know, money, currency." The stranger looked increasingly confused. "Don't tell me you guys don't use Zenny here. What do you use to buy food?" Despite everything, the destroyed building, the impossible situation, the growing crowd of emergency responders outside, Clark found himself smiling. This person, whoever he was completely genuine. There wasn't a trace of deception or malice in him, just honest confusion and concern for others. "We use dollars here," Clark explained gently. "And don't worry about paying for anything. Insurance will cover it." "Insurance? It's complicated." Clark glanced around at the destruction, his mind already working on how to handle this situation. The stranger clearly wasn't malicious, but he was also clearly not human. "What's your name?" "I'm Goku," the stranger Goku replied with a bright smile. "Son Goku, but everyone just calls me Goku." "What about you?" Clark Kent." Clark extended his hand, and Goku shook it with enthusiasm that nearly crushed Clark's fingers despite his invulnerability. "Nice to meet you, Clark." "So, Goku looked around at the destroyed lobby, the gathering crowd of onlookers, and the approaching sirens. "Is this normal for your planet? The falling through buildings thing? Definitely not normal," Clark assured him. "Speaking of which, how exactly did you?" Every television screen in the city suddenly flickered to life with an emergency broadcast. Clark's superhearing picked up the same signal coming from radios, phones, and every electronic device capable of receiving transmissions across Metropolis. "This is an emergency bulletin from Star Labs," the announcer's voice crackled with barely controlled panic. "We're detecting massive energy readings at multiple locations worldwide. The source is unknown, but the patterns suggest something is systematically draining power from various installations. All citizens are advised to remain indoors while authorities investigate." Clark felt his blood run cold. Energy drainage on a global scale wasn't the kind of threat that ordinary authorities could handle. This was a job for Superman. "Energy readings?" Goku perked up, his head tilting as if he was listening to something Clark couldn't hear. "That's weird. I can sense something moving around, but it's not quite." He frowned, his expression growing serious for the first time since his arrival. "It's like something that's there but not there." "Really creepy?" Before Clark could ask what he meant, the temperature in the lobby dropped by 20 degrees. The fluorescent lights began to flicker, and every electronic device in the building started emitting a low, resonant hum. Clark's super senses detected something approaching, something that registered on no spectrum he was familiar with. Then it appeared. The creature materialized in the center of the lobby like a hole torn in reality itself. It was vaguely humanoid, but wrong in every conceivable way. Its body seemed to exist in multiple dimensions simultaneously, creating an optical illusion that hurt to look at directly. Dark energy rippled around it like liquid shadows, and where its feet touched the ground, the very air began to warp and distort. Goku stepped forward without hesitation, dropping into a martial arts stance that somehow made him look more dangerous despite his friendly demeanor. "Hey, ugly, what are you supposed to be?" The creature turned toward them, and Clark felt an overwhelming sense of wrongness wash over him. This thing didn't belong in their reality. It was an intrusion, a violation of the natural order. Clark's hand moved instinctively toward his shirt, ready to tear it open and reveal the S symbol beneath, but stopped when he saw what happened next. The creature raised what might have been an arm, and beams of dark energy lanced out toward both of them. Clark prepared to intercept them with his invulnerability, but Goku simply moved. Not fast, not with any obvious technique. He just flowed like water, letting the energy pass harmlessly around him as if he existed in a slightly different space. "Clark, get everyone out of here," Goku called over his shoulder, his voice carrying absolute confidence. "This thing's dangerous, but I can handle it." Clark wanted to protest, wanted to reveal his true identity and help, but something about Goku's tone stopped him. This wasn't bravado or recklessness. This was the voice of someone who had faced impossible odds before and emerged victorious. Instead, Clark did as Goku asked, using his speed to evacuate the building in seconds while maintaining his human disguise. By the time he returned, Goku had engaged the creature in combat that defied physics. The strange warrior moved like poetry in motion, his every action flowing seamlessly into the next. He dodged attacks that warped space around them, countered with strikes that created shockwaves, and throughout it all maintained an expression of focused determination rather than fear. But what truly amazed Clark was watching his heat vision, Superman's heat vision, fired from outside the building, pass completely through the creature as if it wasn't there at all. "What the hell?" Clark whispered, his mind reeling. His heat vision could cut through almost anything, but this creature seemed to exist in some state between dimensions that made conventional attacks useless. Inside the building, Goku seemed to reach the same conclusion. "You're not really here, are you?" he called out to the creature. "You're like a shadow of something bigger." The creature paused in its assault, and when it spoke, its voice came from everywhere and nowhere at once. Clever little warrior, I am merely. Testing, learning, the real feast comes later. With that ominous declaration, the creature simply faded away, leaving behind only the lingering scent of ozone and the memory of wrongness. Goku straightened up, dusting off his gi once again. Well, that was weird, he announced cheerfully. But at least nobody got hurt. Clark stared at this impossible person who had just engaged in combat with something that his heat vision couldn't even touch, treated the entire encounter like a minor inconvenience, and was now more concerned about collateral damage than his own safety. Who are you, Goku? Clark thought. And what kind of world did you come from where fighting interdimensional creatures is just another Tuesday? As if reading his thoughts, Goku looked directly at him and smiled, the same warm, genuine expression he'd worn since climbing out of the crater. Sorry about all this, Clark. I think my arrival here might have caused some problems. Goku scratched the back of his head sheepishly. But don't worry, wherever these things are coming from, I'll stop them. That's what I do. And despite having just witnessed something that challenged everything he thought he knew about the universe, Clark found himself believing every word. Outside, the sirens were getting closer, and Clark knew that very soon, Superman would need to make an appearance. But first, he had to understand what he was dealing with. Goku, he said carefully, I think we need to talk. 3 hours after the Daily Planet incident, Bruce Wayne sat in the deepest level of the Batcave, surrounded by screens displaying more impossible data than he'd encountered in 20 years of fighting the extraordinary. Every computer in his vast network was working overtime, analyzing sensor readings from across the globe, and they all painted the same disturbing picture. Reality itself was under attack. Alfred, he called without looking away from the primary monitor, have you ever seen energy signatures that don't register on any known spectrum? I can't say that I have, Master Bruce, Alfred replied, setting down a cup of coffee beside the keyboard. Though given your usual associates, I'm surprised it's taken this long for something to completely defy scientific analysis. Bruce's fingers flew across the keyboard, pulling up footage from 17 different satellites and surveillance systems. Each one showed the same impossible figure, a man in an orange gi moving at speeds that should have been visible to his equipment, yet somehow weren't. The stranger's movements during the creature encounter defied every law of physics Bruce understood. Look at this, Bruce said, highlighting a specific sequence. Frame-by-frame analysis shows him dodging attacks that bend spacetime, but there's no evidence of superhuman speed, no displacement of air molecules, no heat signature changes. It's as if he exists in a slightly different physical state than everything around him. Fascinating, Alfred observed dryly, and concerning, I imagine. Extremely. Bruce pulled up another screen showing energy readings from the past 6 hours. Whatever that creature was, it's not alone. I'm detecting similar anomalies in Coast City, Central City, Star City, and at least 12 other locations worldwide. Each manifestation is drawing power from local heroes and infrastructure. The cave's communication system suddenly crackled to life with an incoming transmission from the Justice League satellite. Batman, came Hal Jordan's voice, strained with exhaustion, we've got a problem. My ring's losing power faster than I can recharge it. Something's interfering with my connection to the core. Flash here, Barry Allen's voice joined the channel, though he sounded oddly out of breath. I can barely break the sound barrier. It's like something's slowly cutting me off from the speed force. Bruce's jaw tightened. If heroes across the globe were losing their abilities, Earth was more vulnerable than it had been since the formation of the League. I'm tracking the phenomenon, Bruce reported, but we have a more immediate concern. There's a new player in Metropolis, someone with power levels comparable to Superman, but operating on completely unknown principles. Unknown how? Wonder Woman's voice carried the tone of a warrior assessing a potential threat. Unknown as in my computers can't even detect what type of energy he uses, Bruce replied grimly. Clark encountered him 3 hours ago, and based on preliminary analysis, this individual might be our only advantage against whatever's draining our powers. Where are they now? Barry asked. Bruce checked his Metropolis surveillance network. Centennial Park, Clark's, field testing him. Clark had suggested Centennial Park for 2 reasons. It was large enough to contain whatever happened next, and it was public enough that any displays of power would look like a publicity stunt rather than a genuine superpower exhibition. He'd changed into his Superman costume in a nearby phone booth, a classic that never got old, and now stood across from Goku in the park's central clearing. So you're Superman, Goku said with genuine delight, looking Clark up and down with obvious admiration. I knew you were strong, but wow, that costume makes it official, doesn't it? Something like that, Clark replied, still adjusting to Goku's complete lack of guile. Most people meeting Superman for the first time were either intimidated or trying to impress him. Goku just seemed genuinely happy to make a new friend. "I love the cape," Goku continued enthusiastically. "Does it help with aerodynamics when you fly? I never thought of using one myself." "You can fly?" Clark asked, intrigued. "Sure, watch." Goku lifted off the ground effortlessly, floating in the air with his arms crossed in a relaxed pose. "It's all about feeling the energy around you and learning to move with it instead of against it." "Want me to teach you?" Clark blinked. "I already know how to fly." "Yeah, but your technique's all wrong," Goku said matter-of-factly, floating in a circle around Superman like he was conducting a flying lesson. "You're using pure force to push against gravity. That works, but it's inefficient. If you could sense ki properly, you could flow with the natural energy currents and— Kai again," Clark interrupted gently. "You keep mentioning that. What exactly is ki?" Goku descended to hover at eye level, his expression growing thoughtful. It's life energy, the power that exists in all living things. Most people can't feel it, but everyone has it. Martial artists learn to control it, shape it, use it to enhance their abilities." He held out his hand, and a small ball of blue-white energy formed in his palm. It pulsed with warmth and vitality, completely unlike any energy Clark had encountered before. "This is ki," Goku said simply. "It's not magic, not technology, it's the fundamental force of life itself. Watch." He closed his fist and the energy disappeared. Then, without any visible effort, he moved. Clark's enhanced perception caught the movement barely. One instant Goku was floating 5 feet away, the next he was directly beside Clark, having covered the distance in what might have been a nanosecond. "That's not super speed," Goku explained, floating back to his original position. "That's moving with perfect efficiency by reading the energy flows around me. In my world, we call it Bukyujutsu, the art of dancing on air." Clark stared at this impossible person who had just demonstrated movement techniques that defied his understanding of physics. "Your world? Yeah, I'm definitely not from around here," Goku admitted with his characteristic head scratch. "Everything's different, the energy patterns, the way power works, even the way people think about strength. In my universe, we have tournaments where fighters from different galaxies compete, gods who can destroy planets with a thought, and magic Dragon Balls that can grant wishes." "Dragon Balls? 7 magical orbs that summon an eternal dragon when you gather them all together," Goku explained as if this was perfectly normal. "The dragon can grant pretty much any wish, bringing people back from the dead, unlimited pizza, that sort of thing." Clark felt his worldview expanding in ways that weren't entirely comfortable. "And tournaments with gods? Oh yeah. I just finished competing in one where the losing universes got erased from existence." Goku said this with the same casual tone most people used to discuss the weather. "I won though, so everyone got brought back. It was really fun." Before Clark could process the implications of someone casually mentioning universal erasure tournaments, a red blur streaked into the park and skidded to a halt beside them. "Superman," Barry Allen said, slightly out of breath. "I got Batman's message about—" He stopped mid-sentence, staring at Goku. "You're the anomaly." "I'm Goku," Goku replied cheerfully. "Are you another hero? You've got this really interesting energy signature, like you're connected to something vast and fast." Barry's eyes narrowed behind his mask. "You can sense the speed force." "Speed force?" Goku tilted his head. "Is that what you call it? It's like this cosmic river of motion energy, right? Really cool. I've never seen anything quite like it." "Nobody should be able to sense the speed force without being connected to it," Barry said slowly. "What are you?" "I'm a Saiyan," Goku announced proudly. "Well, technically I'm from Earth, but I'm genetically Saiyan. We're a warrior race that gets stronger every time we fight." Barry looked at Superman with an expression that clearly said, "Are you hearing this? He's legitimate," Clark said quietly. "I've seen him fight, Barry. Whatever he is, wherever he's from, he's on our side." "Prove it," Barry said, dropping into a runner's stance. "If you're as fast as Batman's sensors suggest, let's see what you can do." Goku's face lit up with pure joy. "A race? I love races, though I should warn you I'm pretty fast." "So am I," Barry replied with a competitive grin. "First one to circle the park wins." "You're on." Barry exploded into motion, tapping into what remained of his connection to the speed force. Even diminished, he was still fast enough to circle the park in under 3 seconds, creating a brief red streak across the landscape. He finished the circuit and turned to see Goku standing exactly where he'd been before, arms crossed and smiling patiently. "That was pretty good," Goku said. "You're almost as fast as my friend Dispo from Universe 11. Want to go again?" "You didn't move," Barry said, confused. "Sure I did," Goku replied. I kept pace with you the whole way. Didn't you see me? Barry's mouth dropped open. Superman's enhanced vision had caught glimpses of movement during the race, fleeting impressions of orange and black that had somehow kept perfect pace with the Flash without creating any of the visual distortion that usually accompanied superspeed movement. That's impossible, Barry breathed. I was moving at Mach 15. Really, that's not bad, Goku said encouragingly. Though you might want to work on your technique, you're fighting against air resistance instead of flowing around it. Here, let me show you. But before Goku could demonstrate whatever impossible technique he had in mind, the sky above them began to darken. Not with clouds, but with something far more ominous, reality itself seemed to be developing cracks, like a windshield under stress. "Uh-oh," Goku said, looking up with sudden seriousness. "That's not good." The creature that materialized above Centennial Park was larger than the one that had appeared at the Daily Planet, its form more defined but no less wrong. Where the first had been a scout, this one was clearly a soldier, crackling with dark energy that made the air itself feel sick. "Flash," the creature spoke with a voice like grinding glass, "your connection to the cosmic forces weakens. Soon you will be as powerless as any mortal." Barry tried to access the speed force for a burst of superspeed, but nothing happened. The connection that had defined his entire heroic career was simply gone. "What did you do to me?" Barry demanded. "I consumed your link to forces beyond this reality," the creature replied with satisfaction. "As I have consumed the Green Lantern's connection to his core, the Amazon's divine strength, and soon, the Kryptonian's solar heritage." Clark felt a chill that had nothing to do with temperature. "You're systematically removing our powers. I am preparing this reality for the feast," the creature confirmed. "When all sources of power have been consumed, the barriers between dimensions will collapse and my master will devour everything." Goku stepped forward, dropping into the same combat stance he'd used at the Daily Planet. "And I'm guessing you won't just go away if I ask nicely." The creature turned its attention to him, and for the first time it seemed genuinely curious. Your power is untouched." "How is this possible?" "Because I'm not from around here," Goku replied simply. "And in my experience, cosmic bullies are all the same. They think power makes them right, but they never learned how to actually fight." Without warning, Goku's hair flashed gold, his aura exploding outward in brilliant yellow flames. The transformation was instantaneous and overwhelming, his power level increasing by orders of magnitude in the span of a heartbeat. "This is Super Saiyan," Goku announced, his voice carrying new authority. "And you picked the wrong planet to mess with." Clark watched in amazement as the golden-haired warrior launched himself at the interdimensional threat. Unlike Barry's connection to the Speed Force or the cosmic powers being drained from other heroes, Goku's abilities seemed completely unaffected by whatever was stealing their strength. The battle that followed was unlike anything Clark had ever witnessed. Goku moved with fluid perfection, his every technique flowing seamlessly into the next. He dodged attacks that warped space, countered with strikes that created shockwaves, and throughout it all maintained complete focus on protecting the civilians below. But what truly impressed Clark was watching Goku's tactical mind at work. When direct attacks proved insufficient, he began using the creature's interdimensional nature against it, timing his strikes for the brief moments when it became solid enough to interact with their reality. "Kamehameha!" Goku shouted, cupping his hands at his side as brilliant blue energy swirled between his palms. The beam that erupted forth was like concentrated starlight, striking the creature with enough force to disperse its form entirely. As the threat faded, Goku powered down, his hair returning to black as he landed gracefully beside Superman and Flash. "That should hold them for a while," he said cheerfully, dusting off his gi. "Though I get the feeling that wasn't the real enemy, just another scout." Barry stared at him in amazement. "You're completely unaffected by whatever's draining our powers." "Yeah, Ki works on different principles than your abilities," Goku explained. "It comes from within, from life force and training, not from external sources. Whatever these things are doing to cut you off from cosmic forces, they can't touch something that's generated internally." Clark felt a spark of hope for the first time since the crisis had begun. "That means you're our best weapon against them." "I'm happy to help," Goku replied with a warm smile, "but I think we're going to need more than just fighting to solve this problem. These creatures are organized, intelligent, and they're planning something big." As if summoned by his words, Clark's communicator crackled to life with Batman's voice. "Superman, Flash, we need to talk, all of us, now. The situation is worse than we thought, and according to my analysis, your new friend might be the key to saving not just Earth, but every reality these creatures are targeting." Clark looked at Goku, who was examining the spot where the creature had disappeared with scientific curiosity rather than fear. "Goku," Clark said, "how do you feel about meeting the rest of the Justice League?" Goku's face lit up with excitement. "Are they all as strong as you two? This is gonna be great." Despite everything, the global crisis, the systematic draining of their powers, the threat to reality itself, Clark found himself smiling. Whatever challenges lay ahead, they now had something the enemy clearly hadn't expected. A warrior from another universe whose power couldn't be stolen, whose heart couldn't be corrupted, and whose enthusiasm for protecting others was absolutely infectious. The real fight was about to begin. The Hall of Justice stood majestically against the Washington, D.C. skyline, its gleaming white towers and distinctive architecture a symbol of hope recognized worldwide. As the Justice League's public headquarters, it had hosted diplomats, world leaders, and representatives from across the galaxy. But it had never hosted anyone quite like Son Goku. "Wow," Goku breathed, craning his neck to take in the building's impressive scale. "This place is huge. Do you guys all live here?" "It's more of a meeting place," Superman explained as they walked through the main entrance. "Most of us have our own homes, but this is where we come together when the world needs the Justice League." Goku nodded enthusiastically, his eyes wide with genuine curiosity as they passed displays showcasing the League's history. He paused at a holographic exhibit showing the formation of the original team, watching with fascination as miniature figures of Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman, and the others fought alongside each other. "You really did all this together?" Goku asked. "Saved the world, I mean." "Many times," Superman replied with a slight smile, "though I have a feeling our definition of world-threatening crisis might be different from yours." "Maybe," Goku said thoughtfully. "In my universe, we've had to save the Earth from planet-destroying cyborgs, magical pink demons that can regenerate from a single cell, and a god of destruction who almost erased our entire universe because the food at a party wasn't good enough." Superman stopped walking. "The last one happened because of bad catering. Lord Beerus takes his food very seriously," Goku explained matter-of-factly. "But don't worry, I distracted him with a fighting tournament instead. Much more fun than universal erasure." Before Superman could process the implications of someone casually preventing universal destruction through martial arts tournaments, they reached the League's primary conference room. The legendary round table dominated the space, its polished surface reflecting the advanced holographic displays that surrounded it. 7 chairs were arranged around the table's perimeter, each designed specifically for its occupant. Batman was already present, his imposing figure seated with perfect posture as data streams flowed across multiple screens. Wonder Woman sat to his right, her armor gleaming in the room's soft lighting, while Aquaman occupied the chair across from her, looking far more serious than his usual jovial demeanor suggested. The Flash's chair remained empty. Barry was still dealing with the aftermath of his power loss. But Cyborg had joined them, his technological components interfacing directly with the room systems. Green Lantern Hal Jordan sat slumped in his chair, the normally confident pilot looking exhausted without his ring's power to sustain him. The emerald band on his finger flickered weakly, barely maintaining its form. "Everyone," Superman announced as they entered, "this is Goku." Goku waved cheerfully at the assembled heroes, completely unfazed by being in the presence of Earth's greatest protectors. "Hi. Nice to meet you all." Batman's eyes narrowed as he studied their unexpected guest. Preliminary scans confirm he's not human, despite appearances. His cellular structure is similar to Kryptonian physiology, but with significant variations. More concerning is the complete absence of any energy signature my equipment can identify. "That's because you're looking for the wrong type of energy," Goku said helpfully. "Kai doesn't register on most technological sensors because it's life force, not electromagnetic radiation or cosmic power." Wonder Woman leaned forward, her warrior's instincts clearly engaged. "You speak of ki as a martial discipline. Are you a warrior?" "Yep," Goku replied with pride. "I've been training in martial arts my whole life. There's nothing I love more than fighting strong opponents and getting stronger myself." Diana's expression shifted from wariness to respect. "A true fighter's heart. I can sense the warrior's spirit within you, pure, undaunted, and focused entirely on protecting others." Aquaman chuckled despite the gravity of the situation. "Great. Another one who probably eats his weight in food daily. I hope the League's catering budget can handle it." "I do eat a lot," Goku admitted sheepishly. "Fighting burns a ton of calories, especially when you're using ki techniques. But don't worry, I can hunt my own food if I need to." That won't be necessary, Superman assured him, gesturing to an empty chair that had been brought in for their guest. Please sit. We have a lot to discuss. Goku settled into the chair, his orange gi a stark contrast to the high-tech environment around him. Despite being completely out of place, he radiated the same genuine warmth that had impressed Superman from their first meeting. So, Goku began, looking around the table with interest. Superman mentioned you're all heroes too. What are your powers? Batman's expression didn't change, but there was a subtle tension in his posture. What makes you think we have powers? I can sense them, Goku replied simply. Well, most of them, he pointed at Batman, don't have any special energy, but you've got this incredible focus and determination. It's like looking at pure willpower made manifest. Bruce Wayne had spent years perfecting his intimidating presence, using fear and mystery as weapons against criminals. Having someone casually see through his carefully constructed persona to his fundamental nature was unsettling. Wonder Woman's got this amazing divine energy, Goku continued, turning to Diana. Really warm and powerful like the sun but gentler. And you, he looked at Aquaman, are connected to something vast and deep. The ocean maybe, Arthur nodded slowly. You can sense my connection to the sea. It's beautiful, Goku said sincerely. Like having an entire world's worth of life force flowing through you, Cyborg's optical sensors focused on their guest. Fascinating. My scanners still can't detect whatever energy you're reading from us. That's because you're looking with technology instead of feeling with your spirit, Goku explained. In my world, martial artists spend decades learning to sense ki properly. It's not something machines can do, it requires a living consciousness. Your world, Batman interjected, his tone carefully controlled. Explain that. According to my analysis, you exist in what can only be described as a completely separate dimensional matrix from our reality. Goku scratched his head thoughtfully. Well, I guess it started when the Omni-King decided to send me somewhere interesting. See, in my universe, there are 12 different universes, each with their own planets and fighters and gods. For the next 20 minutes, Goku regaled them with stories that would have sounded like fantasy if not for the earnest sincerity in his voice. He told them about Dragon Balls that could grant wishes, tournaments between universes where the losers faced erasure, gods of destruction who could eliminate planets with a thought, and his own journey from a simple martial artist to someone capable of fighting on a cosmic level. The tournament of power was really intense, Goku concluded. 80 fighters from 8 universes, all fighting for survival. But it was also amazing. I got to test my skills against warriors I'd never imagined existed. Wonder Woman stared at him with newfound respect. You speak of fighting gods and cosmic entities as if it were a pleasant training exercise. Because it is, Goku replied with enthusiasm. Every fight teaches you something new, makes you stronger. Even when the stakes are high, there's nothing more exciting than testing yourself against a worthy opponent. And you've never lost? Aquaman asked, intrigued despite himself. Oh, I lose all the time, Goku laughed. That's how you learn. I've been beaten by androids, Magians, gods, even my own son. But each defeat shows me where I need to improve. Batman's analytical mind was working overtime, processing the implications of Goku's casual revelations. If what you're saying is true, your power level should be exponentially higher than anything we've encountered. I don't really worry about power levels, Goku said with a shrug. It's not about being the strongest, it's about protecting people and always trying to get better. But you are incredibly strong, Superman observed. I could sense it even when you were holding back. Well, yeah, Goku admitted. I've trained under gods, learned techniques that took thousands of years to develop, and pushed my body beyond its limits more times than I can count. But power without purpose is just destruction. Cyborg systems chimed with an incoming data stream. Speaking of purpose, we need to address the immediate threat. The entities attacking our world, they're not random. My analysis shows they're systematically targeting power sources and heroes with cosmic connections. Because they're preparing for something bigger, Batman concluded grimly. The question is what? Wonder Woman's divine senses suddenly flared with warning. There's something approaching, something vast and malevolent. Goku's expression grew serious as he extended his key senses outward. Yeah, I feel it too. Much stronger than the ones we fought before. And it's not alone. The room's holographic displays suddenly activated, showing satellite feeds from around the globe. Dozens of the interdimensional creatures were manifesting simultaneously, each one larger and more defined than the scouts they'd encountered previously. Global coordinated attack, Batman observed. They're not just probing anymore. Hal, Superman turned to the powerless Green Lantern. Any word from the core? Hal shook his head grimly. Nothing. My ring can barely maintain basic functions. Whatever these things are doing, they've cut me off from OR entirely. Same with the Speed Force. Flash's voice crackled through the communicator as he joined the meeting remotely. I'm running on fumes here. Goku stood up from his chair, his demeanor shifting from casual friendliness to focused determination. Then it's a good thing I'm here. These creatures can't drain ki because it comes from within, not from external sources. I can fight them. One against dozens, Wonder Woman asked, though her tone carried respect rather than doubt. I've had worse odds, Goku replied confidently, but you're right, this isn't just about fighting. These things are intelligent, organized. They're planning something specific. Batman's fingers flew across his keyboard, pulling up energy readings from across the globe. The pattern suggests they're weakening dimensional barriers. Each attack point corresponds to a location where the fabric of reality is naturally thin. They're trying to tear holes between dimensions, Cyborg realized. But for what purpose? Before anyone could answer, every screen in the room went dark. Then slowly an image began to form, not on the displays, but in the air itself, a three-dimensional projection that seemed to exist in multiple realities simultaneously. The figure that appeared was massive, ancient, and utterly alien. Its form defied easy description, constantly shifting between dimensions, but its voice was clear and cold as winter. I am the Void Weaver, it spoke, the words seeming to come from the spaces between atoms. Consumer of realities, merger of dimensions. For eons, I have fed on the barriers that separate universe from universe, growing stronger with each reality I devour. Goku stepped forward, unintimidated. And now you want to eat ours. The entity's attention focused on him with terrible intensity. You do not belong. Your power stems from a different universal framework entirely. Fascinating, thanks, I guess, Goku replied dryly, but you still haven't answered my question. I do not merely wish to consume your reality, the Void Weaver continued. I intend to collapse all realities into a single point of existence, a cosmic singularity where every universe, every dimension, every possibility becomes one. And then I shall devour it all. The implication hit everyone simultaneously. Not just their world, not just their universe, but every possible reality was under threat. That's impossible, Batman said, though his voice carried less certainty than usual. Is it? The Void Weaver asked mockingly. I have already begun. Even now the barriers weaken. Your heroes lose their cosmic connections. Soon the walls between dimensions will be too frail to maintain separation. Wonder Woman's hand moved instinctively to her sword. We won't let you. You cannot stop what has already begun, the entity interrupted. But you, warrior from the 13th universe, you interest me. Your power is untainted by this reality's limitations. Show me more. With that declaration, the projection vanished, leaving the Justice League in stunned silence. Goku was the first to speak. Well, that's not good. Universal collapse, Superman said quietly. Every reality merged into one and then destroyed. Including mine, Goku added, his expression growing serious. My family, my friends, my world, they're all in danger too. Batman was already working, his fingers flying across multiple keyboards as he coordinated global response efforts. We need a strategy. Conventional tactics won't work against something that exists between dimensions. Leave the fighting to me, Goku said firmly. I can handle these creatures individually, but we need to figure out how to stop the Void Weaver itself. Aquaman leaned back in his chair. Any ideas on how to fight something that exists in the spaces between realities? We go to those spaces, Goku replied simply. If that's where it lives, that's where the real fight has to happen. Wonder Woman studied their unlikely ally with growing admiration. You would risk everything, including your chance of returning home, to protect universes you've never seen. Of course, Goku said, as if the question itself was strange. That's what heroes do, right? We protect people, no matter where they're from or what reality they live in. Superman felt a familiar warmth in his chest, the same feeling he'd experienced when first putting on the cape, the same drive that had motivated him to become Earth's greatest protector. Goku's simple, pure dedication to helping others reminded him why he'd chosen this path in the first place. Before anyone could respond, alarms began blaring throughout the Hall of Justice. Every screen in the room lit up with emergency broadcasts, satellite feeds, and sensor readings, all pointing to the same terrifying conclusion. Massive energy buildup over Metropolis, Cyborg reported, his voice tense. Whatever's coming, it's big. Goku pulled out a small photograph from his gi, a picture of Chi-Chi and Goten waving at the camera, both smiling brightly. He looked at it for a moment, his expression soft with longing, before tucking it away again. "I'll get home to them," he said quietly, "but first we save everyone else." Superman put a hand on Goku's shoulder. "You don't have to do this alone." "I know," Goku replied with a grateful smile. "That's what makes this so much better than fighting by myself." The building shook as something massive materialized directly above Metropolis. Through the hall's windows, they could see reality itself beginning to warp and distort, buildings phasing in and out of existence as dimensional barriers strained to their breaking point. "Time to go," Batman announced, already moving toward the exit. "Finally," Goku said, his earlier sadness replaced by familiar excitement. "I was starting to get restless just sitting around talking." As the Justice League prepared to face their greatest challenge yet, none of them could have predicted that their success would depend not on advanced technology, cosmic powers, or divine intervention, but on the pure heart of a warrior from another universe who had learned the most important lesson of all. Sometimes, the best way to protect what you love is to fight alongside people who love something just as much. The battle for all realities was about to begin. The flight from Washington, D.C. to Metropolis normally took the Justice League's fastest members mere minutes, but today felt different. As they approached the city, reality itself seemed to be holding its breath. The air shimmered with unnatural energy, and the skyline flickered between dimensions like a television with poor reception. Superman carried Batman in a protective embrace, while Wonder Woman flew alongside them, her divine senses screaming warnings with every mile they covered. Goku kept pace effortlessly, floating beside them with his arms crossed, though his usual cheerful demeanor had given way to focused determination. "The energy readings are off the charts," Batman reported through his communicator to Cyborg, who was monitoring the situation from the watchtower. "Whatever's manifesting over Metropolis is at least 10 times stronger than the previous encounters." "Confirmed," Cyborg's voice crackled with static. "And Batman, it's not alone. I'm detecting 17 similar signatures appearing across major population centers worldwide." Goku's expression grew grim. "They're coordinating. This isn't just an attack, it's a test." "A test of what?" Wonder Woman asked, though she suspected she already knew the answer. "Me," Goku replied simply. "The Void Weaver wants to see what I can do. It's using these manifestations to study my fighting style, my techniques, my limits." Superman felt a chill that had nothing to do with their altitude. "You're saying this is all designed to analyze you specifically?" "Makes sense," Batman interjected, his analytical mind already working through the implications. "You're the only one whose powers remain unaffected. If the Void Weaver can understand and counter your abilities, then Earth loses its only effective defender," Wonder Woman finished grimly. Goku was quiet for a moment, processing this revelation. Then, to everyone's surprise, he smiled, not his usual carefree grin, but something sharper, more predatory. "Good," he said, cracking his knuckles. "I was worried this was going to be boring." They crested the final hill before Metropolis, and the sight that greeted them defied description. Above the city center, a tear in reality had opened like a wound in the sky. Through it, they could see glimpses of other dimensions, alien landscapes, impossible geometries, and swirling void stuff that hurt to look at directly. Emerging from this dimensional rift was the largest manifestation of the Void Weaver they'd yet encountered. It stood nearly 200 feet tall, its form more solid and defined than the Scouts, but still wrong in ways that made the mind recoil. Dark energy crackled around it like lightning, and where its feet touched the ground, the very air began to warp and distort. "Metropolis PD is evacuating a 6-block radius," Batman reported, his voice tight with controlled concern. "But the entity's energy field is interfering with electronics. Emergency services are partially blind." "Then we go in manually," Superman declared, already adjusting his trajectory toward the city. "Wait," Goku said, extending one hand to stop them. "This thing is too big for close quarters combat in a populated area. Let me draw it away from the civilians first." Before anyone could protest, Goku shot forward like a golden comet, his aura flaring as he transformed. His hair shifted from black to brilliant gold, standing on end as crackling yellow energy surrounded his body. The power emanating from him was unlike anything the Justice League had experienced, not the cosmic forces they were familiar with, but something more primal, more alive. "Super Saiyan 2, Goku announced, his voice carrying new authority as bioelectric sparks danced around his transformed state. "Let's see what you've got." The Void Weaver manifestation turned toward him with ponderous grace, its multidimensional form shifting as it focused on this new threat. "Ah," it spoke, its voice a harmonic that seemed to come from everywhere at once. The anomaly reveals more of its nature. Fascinating. What happened next was beyond anything the watching heroes had imagined possible. Goku moved first, closing the distance between himself and the towering entity in less than a heartbeat. But this wasn't crude superspeed, it was artistry in motion. He flowed around the creature's initial attack like water, his every movement perfectly timed and devastatingly efficient. The Void Weaver swung a massive appendage that could have leveled a city block, but Goku was already elsewhere, appearing behind the creature's head with his hands cupped at his side. "Kamehameha," he shouted, and pure blue-white energy erupted from his palms. The beam struck the entity full force, sending it stumbling backward, away from the populated areas of Metropolis and toward the harbor. As it fell, Goku used instant transmission to appear above it, driving both fists down in a hammer blow that created a shockwave visible from orbit. "Incredible," Wonder Woman breathed, watching the display with a warrior's appreciation. "His technique, it's like nothing I've ever seen." Batman was recording everything, his cowl's sensors working overtime to capture data that his computers would later struggle to analyze. He's not just powerful, he's a tactical genius. Every move serves multiple purposes: damage, positioning, crowd control. Superman found himself transfixed by the artistry of Goku's combat style. He'd fought alongside many heroes over the years, but he'd never seen anyone who brought such pure joy to battle while maintaining perfect focus on protecting others. When Goku fought, it was beautiful. Down in the harbor, the Void Weaver had recovered from the initial assault and was beginning to adapt. Dark energy coalesced around its form as it analyzed Goku's attack patterns, its multidimensional nature allowing it to observe the fight from angles that existed outside normal spacetime. "Interesting technique," the entity mused, launching a barrage of void bolts that bent space around them. "Energy projection coupled with instantaneous spatial displacement. But I begin to see the patterns." Goku dodged the attacks with fluid grace, but Superman's enhanced vision caught something troubling. Each subsequent attack was getting closer to hitting its target. The creature was learning. "It's adapting to his fighting style," Batman observed grimly. "Every technique Goku uses, it's analyzing and developing counters for." "Then he needs to not use the same technique twice," Wonder Woman said, though even as she spoke, she wasn't sure if such a thing was possible. As if hearing her concern, Goku suddenly changed tactics entirely. Instead of his fluid martial arts movements, he began fighting like a brawler, crude, direct, powerful strikes that prioritized raw impact over elegant technique. The Void Weaver, caught off guard by the dramatic shift in fighting style, took several devastating hits before it could readjust. "Solar flare," Goku shouted, placing his fingers against his forehead. A brilliant flash of light erupted from his position, temporarily blinding the entity and giving him an opening for a massive uppercut that sent the creature skyward. But instead of pursuing the attack, Goku vanished and reappeared beside the watching Justice League members. "It's learning too fast," he reported, powering down to his base form to conserve energy. "Every technique I use, it develops a counter within seconds. If I keep fighting it directly, it'll eventually catalog everything I can do." "So what do we do?" Superman asked. "We get creative," Goku replied with a grin that was equal parts excited and dangerous. "Batman, you said you've been analyzing my ki, right? What did you learn?" Bruce's expression was carefully neutral. "Your energy operates on principles that don't exist in our universe. It's not electromagnetic, not cosmic, not even magical in the traditional sense. It's something entirely different." "Exactly," Goku said. "Which means even if this thing learns all my techniques, it still can't replicate the fundamental energy that powers them. It can counter my moves, but it can't copy my ki." The Void Weaver manifestation had recovered and was descending toward them, its form now crackling with absorbed energy from its analysis of Goku's fighting style. "I have studied your movements, warrior," it declared. "Your patterns are known to me. Submit, and your death will be swift." "You know," Goku said conversationally, "everyone always thinks that knowing how to throw a punch means they understand martial arts. But fighting isn't just about techniques, it's about heart." He powered up again, but this time something was different. Instead of the raw power display of Super Saiyan 2, his aura became more focused, more controlled. His hair remained gold, but the bioelectric sparks intensified, and his eyes took on a harder edge. "This is what happens when you combine perfect ki control with Saiyan battle instincts," he explained to the watching heroes. It's not about being the strongest, it's about being the most complete fighter. The battle that resumed was unlike anything that had come before. Goku fought with a precision that bordered on the supernatural, his every movement perfectly calculated not just for damage, but for beauty. He turned combat into an art form, each technique flowing seamlessly into the next in combinations the Void Weaver couldn't predict because they weren't based on logical patterns. They were based on intuition, creativity, and the pure joy of martial arts mastery. When the entity tried to counter his Kamehameha wave, Goku split the beam into multiple streams that converged from impossible angles. When it adapted to his instant transmission, he began using the technique in rapid succession, creating afterimages that existed in multiple positions simultaneously. He's not just fighting, Wonder Woman realized with growing amazement. He's teaching it the wrong lessons on purpose. Batman nodded grimly. Every technique he's showing it now is fundamentally flawed in subtle ways. When the Void Weaver tries to adapt these patterns to counter him later, the flaws will create openings. Tactical deception through combat demonstration, Superman said with admiration. He's thinking 12 moves ahead. But even as they watched Goku's masterful performance, they could see the toll it was taking. His energy output was enormous, and maintaining such precise control while generating maximum power was pushing even his legendary endurance to its limits. The Void Weaver seemed to sense this as well. You grow weaker, warrior. Your energy reserves diminish with each display of power. Maybe, Goku panted, hovering in the air with his aura flickering slightly. But I've learned something important about you. Oh, and what is that? Goku's grin was positively predatory. You're not real. The entity paused, its multidimensional form rippling with confusion. Explain, you're just a projection, a remote-controlled puppet being operated by the real Void Weaver from wherever it's hiding, Goku continued, his breathing returning to normal as he spoke. All this power, all this analysis, all this adaptation, it's being transmitted across dimensional barriers, which means there's a delay. Batman's eyes widened behind his cowl as he understood the implications. Signal lag. Even across dimensions, information transmission can't be instantaneous. Exactly, Goku said. This thing has been reacting to my techniques a split second after I use them, not during. It's getting real-time data, but not true real-time. There's a gap. Wonder Woman felt a surge of admiration for the warrior's tactical mind, and you can exploit that gap. Already am, Goku replied, and suddenly his aura exploded outward with renewed intensity. What happened next occurred too fast for even Superman's enhanced perception to fully track. Goku moved with speeds that transcended mere velocity, striking the Void Weaver manifestation in 17 different locations simultaneously during the brief lag between its sensory input and its controlling intelligence's response. Each strike was perfectly placed to disrupt the entity's energy matrix. And by the time the controlling Void Weaver could process what was happening, its manifestation was already dispersing into wisps of dark energy. As the creature faded, its final words carried across the harbor with ominous certainty. Clever, warrior from beyond, but this was merely the first lesson. Soon, you will face the true test of your abilities. Goku powered down as the last traces of the manifestation disappeared, floating gently down to land beside his amazed allies. That was, Superman began, then stopped, searching for adequate words. That was the most impressive display of tactical combat I've ever witnessed, Batman said with genuine respect. You turned the entity's adaptive capabilities against it while simultaneously gathering intelligence on the real Void Weaver's operational limitations. Plus, Aquaman's voice crackled through their communicators from his position coordinating coastal evacuations, you made it look incredibly cool while doing it. Goku laughed, the sound carrying genuine warmth despite their dire circumstances. Thanks, though I have to admit, fighting something that smart was pretty fun. It's been a while since I had to think that hard during a battle. Fun? Wonder Woman asked incredulously. You just engaged in single combat against an interdimensional entity that threatens all of reality, and you found it enjoyable. Well, yeah, Goku replied as if this was perfectly normal. The best fights are the ones that push you to grow, that force you to become better than you were before. That thing made me combine techniques in ways I'd never tried. It was educational. Superman shook his head in amazement. This person continued to confound every expectation he had about how someone with godlike power should behave. Incoming transmission, Cyborg's voice interrupted their moment of reflection. The manifestations worldwide are retreating, but not before they all said the same thing. The warrior has been measured. Preparations may now begin. Batman's expression darkened. It gathered the data it wanted. All of this was just reconnaissance. Then they'll be back, Goku said matter-of-factly, and next time they'll be ready for everything I showed them today. What about everything you didn't show them? Wonder Woman asked shrewdly. Goku's smile took on a mysterious edge. That's what I'm counting on. As they prepared to return to the Hall of Justice to plan their next move, none of them noticed the small figure watching from a rooftop several blocks away. The child looked ordinary enough. Brown hair, simple clothes, unremarkable in every way except for the ancient intelligence in its eyes and the faint smile playing at the corners of its mouth. Interesting, the figure murmured in a voice that carried harmonics of cosmic authority. The Saiyan shows wisdom beyond his apparent nature. This may prove more entertaining than anticipated. The Omni-King, Zeno, had come to see how his little experiment was progressing, and so far, he was not disappointed. As Goku and the Justice League departed for their headquarters, the childlike being who could erase universes with a thought settled in to watch the next phase of events unfold. After all, he had sent Goku here for entertainment, and things were just starting to get interesting. The real test was yet to come. The Fortress of Solitude had hosted many extraordinary visitors over the years, scientists, heroes, even the occasional reformed villain seeking redemption. But it had never hosted a Saiyan warrior who treated one of the universe's most advanced technological marvels like an interesting training ground. "This place is incredible, Clark," Goku exclaimed, his voice echoing through the crystalline halls as he spun in a slow circle, taking in the vast repository of Kryptonian knowledge. "It's like a whole world made of crystal. How does it all stay up without any supports?" "Kryptonian crystal technology," Superman explained, leading him through the maze of towering formations toward the fortress's central chamber. "Each crystal contains compressed information and structural matrices that—" "It's alive," Goku interrupted, placing his palm against one of the glowing formations. "I can feel it, not alive like a person, but aware. Like the crystals are thinking." Clark paused, studying his guest with growing amazement. Even advanced Kryptonian scanners couldn't detect the bioneural networks within the crystals, yet Goku had sensed them instantly through whatever mysterious ability allowed him to read key signatures. "You're right," Clark admitted. "The crystals do have a form of artificial consciousness. How did you know?" "Everything has some kind of life energy," Goku replied, his hand still pressed against the crystal surface. "Rocks, plants, technology, if it exists, it has ki. Usually it's really faint, but these crystals, they're almost like living computers." They reached the fortress's main hall, where holographic displays showed real-time data feeds from across Earth. The aftermath of the morning's battles was still being assessed. Property damage was surprisingly minimal thanks to Goku's tactical approach, but the psychological impact on the global population was enormous. Humanity had just learned they weren't alone in the multiverse, and the knowledge was causing everything from religious revivals to mass panic. "The world's still processing what happened," Clark said, gesturing to news feeds showing crowds gathering around televisions worldwide. "First contact with interdimensional entities isn't exactly covered in any government handbooks." "Sorry about that," Goku said sheepishly. "In my universe, this kind of thing happens pretty regularly. I forget that most worlds don't deal with cosmic threats very often." "How often is pretty regularly?" Clark asked, not entirely sure he wanted to know the answer. "Oh, maybe every few years. Sometimes more often if someone gets really ambitious about conquering the universe." Goku sat down cross-legged on the crystalline floor, his expression growing thoughtful. "Though I guess that's just Earth. Other planets in our universe have their own problems." Clark settled beside him, still marveling at how Goku could discuss universe-threatening events with the same casual tone most people used to talk about the weather. "It must be exhausting, constantly fighting threats of that magnitude." "Not really," Goku replied with his characteristic grin. "Fighting strong opponents is what I live for. The stronger the challenge, the more I can grow. Every battle teaches me something new about martial arts, about myself, about what I'm capable of." "But what about the pressure? The responsibility of knowing that if you fail, entire worlds could be destroyed." Goku's expression grew more serious. "That's exactly why I can't fail. When people are counting on you, when their lives depend on your strength, that's when you discover what you're really made of." Clark felt a familiar warmth in his chest, the same feeling he'd experienced when he first decided to use his powers to help others. Despite coming from completely different universes, he and Goku shared the same fundamental drive. An absolute dedication to protecting innocent lives, no matter the cost to themselves. "I'd like to learn more about ki," Clark said. If we're going to face the Void Weaver together, I need to understand how your power works. Really? Goku's face lit up with excitement. That's great, I love teaching martial arts. Though I should warn you, Kai sensing takes a lot of practice. Most people need months or years to develop even basic sensitivity. I'm not most people, Clark replied with a slight smile. No, you definitely aren't, Goku agreed, standing up and brushing off his gi. Okay, first lesson. Ki isn't something you think about, it's something you feel. Close your eyes and try to sense the life energy around you. Clark followed the instruction, using his enhanced senses to scan the environment around them. He could detect electromagnetic fields, hear conversations happening in Metropolis hundreds of miles away, even perceive the subtle gravitational fluctuations caused by their movement. But whatever Ki was, it remained elusive. I don't sense anything unusual, Clark reported after several minutes of concentration. That's because you're using your alien senses instead of your human ones, Goku said gently. Kai isn't about enhanced perception, it's about spiritual awareness. Try again, but this time don't listen with your ears or look with your eyes. Feel with your heart. It took nearly an hour of patient instruction, but eventually Clark began to perceive something, a faint warmth that seemed to emanate from Goku himself, along with subtler signatures from the crystals around them and even a distant glow that he gradually realized corresponded to Earth's biosphere. I think I can sense something, Clark said slowly, his eyes still closed in concentration. That's it, Goku said enthusiastically. You're feeling the life force of everything around you. With practice, you'll be able to read emotions, detect hidden enemies, even track people across vast distances just by following their key signature. Incredible, Clark murmured, opening his eyes with newfound wonder. It's like discovering an entirely new sense. Better than that, Goku replied. Kai sensing creates connections between living beings. The more you develop this ability, the better you'll understand not just what people are doing, but why they're doing it. Before Clark could ask for clarification, the Fortress's communication system activated with an incoming transmission from the Hall of Justice. Superman, Batman's voice carried its usual controlled urgency. We need you and Goku back here. Wonder Woman wants to spar with our new ally, and I have some questions about key energy that require hands-on analysis. On our way, Clark replied, then turned to Goku. Ready for round 2? Always, Goku grinned, powering up slightly as his aura flickered around him. Race you there. You're on. The Hall of Justice's training facility had been designed to accommodate the Justice League's diverse membership, with reinforced walls capable of withstanding Superman's strength and specialized equipment that could adapt to various heroic needs. It had never been tested against the training requirements of a Saiyan warrior. Wonder Woman stood in the center of the sparring area, having traded her ornate armor for a simpler training outfit that allowed for greater mobility. Her sword and shield rested nearby, within easy reach but not immediately in hand. A sign of respect for an opponent she intended to face with martial skill rather than divine weaponry. I have fought warriors from across the cosmos, she said as Goku approached, dropping into a combat stance that spoke of millennia of refined technique. Amazons train from childhood to achieve perfect harmony between mind, body, and spirit. I am curious to see how your martial arts compare to our ancient disciplines. Goku bowed formally, recognizing both the challenge and the respect it represented. It's an honor to spar with you, Princess. I can sense the warrior's heart within you, strong, pure, and completely dedicated to protecting others. They began cautiously, each testing the other's defenses with careful probing attacks. Diana's style was immediately recognizable as classical Greek martial arts elevated to supernatural perfection, every movement precise, every technique flowing seamlessly from defensive positioning to offensive strikes. Goku responded with his own fluid approach, drawing from the diverse martial arts traditions of his universe. Where Diana fought with the disciplined perfection of a warrior goddess, Goku's style was more adaptive, constantly evolving to meet each new challenge his opponent presented. Your technique is remarkable, Diana said as they separated after a brief exchange of strikes, both fighters breathing normally despite the intensity of their engagement. But there's something incomplete about it. As if you're holding back more than just your strength. That's because I am, Goku replied honestly. In my world, I've learned techniques that could accidentally destroy this entire building. I'm trying to find the right balance between showing you my abilities and making sure I don't hurt anyone. From the observation area, Batman watched the sparring match with growing fascination. His cowl's sensors were working overtime, trying to catalog the energy patterns radiating from both fighters, but Goku's key signature remained maddeningly elusive. Cyborg, he spoke into his communicator, are you getting any useful data from this? Negative, came Victor's reply. Every scanner I have shows Wonder Woman's energy signature clearly. Her divine enhancement creates distinctive electromagnetic patterns. But Goku, it's like he doesn't exist on any spectrum my equipment can detect. Because he operates on principles that don't exist in our reality, Batman muttered, making notes on his portable computer. His power system is fundamentally alien to our universal constants. In the sparring area, the intensity was gradually increasing. Wonder Woman had begun incorporating her superhuman speed and strength, forcing Goku to respond in kind. His movements became more fluid, more impossible. He began dodging attacks that hadn't been thrown yet, positioning himself to counter techniques Diana was still planning. How are you doing that? She asked during a brief pause, genuine curiosity replacing competitive focus. You're responding to attacks I haven't even decided to use. Kai sensing, Goku explained, wiping a light sheen of sweat from his forehead. When you're connected to someone else's life energy, you can feel their intentions before they act on them. It's not mind reading, it's more like emotional anticipation. Diana's eyes widened with understanding. You're reading the warrior's spirit within me, the part that decides how to fight before the mind can process the decision. Exactly, Goku said with enthusiasm. Want me to teach you how to do it? Before Diana could respond, the sparring area's reinforced doors burst open as Barry Allen skidded to a halt just inside the training facility. Without his connection to the Speed Force, he was moving at merely human velocities, but his urgency was unmistakable. We've got problems, he announced breathlessly. Multiple problems. Worldwide, Batman was already moving, his cape billowing as he strode toward the main console. Report. Dimensional instabilities are appearing in major cities across the globe, Barry continued, pulling up holographic displays that showed troubling data from around the world. New York, London, Tokyo, Moscow, reality is literally coming apart at the seams. Superman arrived moments later, having flown from the fortress at maximum speed. I saw the distortions from orbit. It looks like someone's tearing holes in space-time itself. Goku's expression grew serious as he extended his key senses outward, reaching across vast distances to sample the energy signatures Barry was describing. What he found made his blood run cold. It's not random, he said grimly. These distortions are being created deliberately, and they're all connected. Someone's weakening the barriers between dimensions on a massive scale. Cyborg's voice crackled through the facility's speakers as he joined the briefing remotely from the watchtower. Confirmed, I'm detecting a coordinated pattern in the dimensional disruptions. Each tier is positioned at a location where our reality's fabric is naturally thin, places where the boundary between dimensions is already stressed. Batman's mind was already working through the tactical implications. They're creating a network, but for what purpose? Wonder Woman sheathed her sword, her sparring session forgotten in the face of this new threat. Perhaps to allow something massive to cross over from their dimension into ours. Worse than that, Goku said quietly, his key senses painting a picture that none of them wanted to hear. They're not trying to bring something here, they're trying to take everything there. Elaborate, Batman commanded. Goku closed his eyes, extending his awareness as far as possible, touching the edges of each dimensional distortion with his spiritual senses. What he found was a pattern of devastating elegance. Each tier was positioned not just to weaken reality, but to create a specific type of instability. The Void Weaver isn't planning to invade our dimension, Goku explained, opening his eyes to meet their worried gazes. It's planning to collapse our dimension into its own realm. All these tiers, they're like stress fractures in a window, apply enough pressure in the right places and the whole thing shatters. The implications hit everyone simultaneously. Not just Earth, not just their universe, but their entire reality was being systematically demolished from within. How long do we have? Superman asked, though he suspected he didn't want to know the answer. Before Goku could respond, every screen in the facility flickered and went dark. Then, slowly, the familiar form of the Void Weaver materialized, not physically, but as a projection that seemed to exist in the spaces between atoms. Your understanding grows, warrior from beyond, the entity's voice carried mockery and approval in equal measure. Yes, I intend to collapse your reality into mine, but not merely this single dimension, all dimensions. Every possible version of reality will be compressed into a single point of existence and then consumed. Goku stepped forward, his aura beginning to flicker with barely contained power. Every reality. You're talking about infinite universes, infinite worlds full of innocent people. I am talking about the ultimate feast, the Void Weaver replied with terrible satisfaction. For eons, I have consumed the barriers between realities, growing stronger with each dimension I devour. But this will be my masterpiece. Every possibility, every timeline, every universe that ever was or could be, all merged into one perfect meal. Wonder Woman's hand moved instinctively to her sword. We will not allow this to happen. You cannot prevent what has already begun, the entity laughed, its form rippling with dark amusement. Even now, the dimensional barriers grow weaker. Soon the collapse will be irreversible. How soon? Batman demanded. 72 hours, came the chilling reply. In 3 Earth days, the barriers will be too fragile to maintain separation. The convergence will begin and all realities will become one. The projection began to fade, but the Void Weaver's final words echoed with terrible certainty. Prepare yourself, warrior. Soon, you will face the true test of your abilities. And when you fail, as all mortals must, everything you seek to protect will feed my eternal hunger. As the entity's presence disappeared, the training facility fell into stunned silence. 72 hours to save not just Earth, not just their universe, but every possible reality. Well, Goku said, breaking the oppressive quiet with his characteristic optimism, at least we know what we're up against now. That's your response? Bari asked incredulously. Every reality in existence is about to be destroyed, and you're treating it like a training exercise. Because that's exactly what it is, Goku replied, his expression growing more determined. The Void Weaver is powerful, but it's not invincible. Nothing is. There's always a way to win, you just have to be willing to push beyond your limits to find it. Superman felt that familiar spark of hope that Goku's presence seemed to kindle. What do you need from us? Time to prepare, Goku said simply, and trust that when the moment comes, we'll all do whatever it takes to protect what we love. As if responding to his words, Goku's aura suddenly shifted, not brighter but different. His hair remained black, but his eyes took on an otherworldly silver gleam, and his movements became impossibly fluid as he effortlessly dodged attacks from multiple directions that existed only in his mind. For just a moment, he seemed to exist in a state of perfect balance, responding to threats that hadn't materialized and countering techniques that nobody was using. Then, just as quickly as it had appeared, the strange state faded, leaving him swaying slightly from the sudden transition. What was that? Wonder Woman asked, her warrior instincts recognizing something extraordinary in what she'd just witnessed. Nothing, Goku said quickly, though his voice carried a hint of uncertainty. Just reflexes kicking in. Batman's sensors had detected brief energy spikes during that moment, not ki, but something even more alien to their reality. Whatever Goku had just accessed, it operated on principles that transcended even his usual impossible abilities. Goku, Superman said carefully, if there's something more you can do, some technique or transformation that might help, now would be the time to mention it. Goku was quiet for a moment, his expression uncharacteristically serious. There might be something, but it's unstable, dangerous. I've only managed to achieve it a few times, and each time nearly killed me. What kind of technique? Wonder Woman asked. It's called Ultra Instinct, Goku said slowly. A state where the body moves and fights completely independent of thought or emotion. Perfect martial arts mastery, achieved through letting go of everything that makes you. You, Batman's analytical mind, immediately grasped the implications. Complete autonomous combat response. Your body would react to threats faster than conscious thought could process them. It's more than that, Goku continued. In Ultra Instinct, you don't just dodge attacks, you dodge the intent to attack. You don't counter techniques, you counter the desire to use techniques. It's fighting on a level that exists beyond physical reality. That could be exactly what we need against the Void Weaver, Superman said with growing excitement. Maybe, Goku replied grimly. But like I said, it's unstable. The few times I've achieved it, I could only maintain the state for minutes before my body gave out completely. And if I lose control while in that form, he didn't finish the sentence, but everyone understood the implication. Power without control was just destruction waiting to happen. Then we make sure you don't lose control, Wonder Woman said firmly. Whatever support you need, whatever backup we can provide, you'll have it. Goku looked around at the assembled heroes, Superman's unwavering determination, Wonder Woman's warrior's confidence, Batman's analytical brilliance, Bari's infectious optimism despite his power loss. These people barely knew him, yet they were willing to trust him with the fate of all existence. All right, he said, his characteristic grin returning. Let's save every reality in the multiverse. Should be fun, despite everything, the impossible stakes, the cosmic threat, the countdown to universal destruction. the Justice League found themselves sharing his confidence. Whatever came next, they would face it together. The final battle for existence itself was only 72 hours away. The first sign that something catastrophic was beginning came from Cyborg's monitoring systems aboard the Watchtower. Every sensor, every satellite, every detection grid across Earth suddenly lit up with warnings as dimensional tiers began opening not dozens at a time, but hundreds. "This is it," Victor's voice crackled through the communications system with barely controlled panic. "Massive manifestations worldwide. New York, Central City, Coast City, London, Tokyo, they're everywhere and they're all appearing simultaneously." Batman was already coordinating response efforts before Cyborg finished his report, his fingers flying across multiple keyboards as he pulled up global tactical displays. "Justice League reserves, respond to your assigned sectors. This is a coordinated assault. Stay in communication and watch each other's backs." Through the facility's reinforced windows, they could see the sky above Washington, D.C. beginning to darken with unnatural shadows. But this wasn't the localized manifestation they'd faced before. This was something far more systematic and devastating. "Barry," Superman called to the powerless speedster, "coordinate evacuation efforts in Central City. Even without the Speed Force, your tactical knowledge is invaluable." "On it," Barry replied, though his frustration at being unable to run at superhuman speeds was evident in every word. Wonder Woman was already donning her armor, her expression grim with warrior's resolve. "I'll return to the Masira. If these entities are draining divine power, my sisters will need help maintaining their defenses." "Wait," Goku said, his key senses extended across vast distances as he analyzed the global assault. "Something's wrong with this pattern. The manifestations aren't random, they're specifically targeting locations where powerful heroes operate." Batman paused in his coordination efforts, his analytical mind immediately grasping the implications. Targeted power drainage. They're not just weakening dimensional barriers, they're systematically removing Earth's defenders. "Worse than that," Goku continued, his expression growing increasingly troubled. "I can sense what they're doing with the absorbed energy. They're not just taking your powers away, they're learning to use them." Before anyone could ask for clarification, Cyborg's voice returned with a report that sent chills through everyone present. "Spider-Man in New York just went completely silent. His last transmission was that his spider sense was screaming right before his web shooters stopped working entirely." "Central City reporting complete Speed Force blackout," came another update from Barry's contacts in his home city. "Every speedster in the area is running at baseline human levels." "Coast City emergency," Hal Jordan's weak voice joined the communication channel. "The manifestation here isn't just draining my ring, it's draining every Green Lantern who tries to approach the sector. The entire core contingent is falling back to Oa." Wonder Woman's face grew pale as her own divine senses detected something terrible. "The Masira, I can feel my sister's strength fading. The blessing of the gods that protects our island is being slowly consumed." Goku closed his eyes, extending his key awareness as far as possible, and what he sensed made his blood run cold. They're not just attacking, they're feeding. Every power they absorb makes them stronger, and they're using that stolen strength to create more manifestations. Exponential growth, Batman realized grimly. The more heroes they drain, the more powerful they become, allowing them to drain even more heroes. "And the strongest manifestation," Goku said, opening his eyes with grim determination, "is forming right here in Metropolis. It's drawing power from all the others, becoming something far more dangerous than anything we've faced before." As if summoned by his words, the sky above them began to tear open. But this wasn't the simple dimensional rift they'd seen before. This was a wound in reality itself, bleeding darkness that hurt to look at directly. From within this cosmic injury, something vast and terrible began to emerge. "Everyone spread out," Superman commanded, his cape billowing as he prepared for flight. "Cover the global manifestations." No," Goku interrupted, his aura beginning to flicker with power. "This one's mine. The rest of you handle the smaller manifestations. I'll deal with whatever's coming through that tier." "Goku, you can't face something that powerful alone," Wonder Woman protested. "I'm not alone," he replied, looking around at his new allies with genuine warmth. "You'll all be fighting alongside me, just in different places. Every manifestation you stop weakens the one I'm facing." Batman nodded grimly, understanding the tactical wisdom in Goku's words. "Coordinated defense. We divide their attention while concentrating our strongest asset against their primary threat." As the Justice League members departed for their respective battles, Superman hesitated, his enhanced hearing already picking up sounds of panic from across Metropolis as civilians fled the approaching darkness. "Clark," Goku said quietly, "trust me, I've got this." "It's not about trust," Superman replied. "It's about backup. What if you need help?" Goku's expression grew serious but not worried. "Then I'll call for it. But right now, the world needs Superman protecting people, not watching me fight. That's what heroes do, right? We protect those who can't protect themselves." Superman nodded, recognizing his own philosophy reflected in Goku's words. With a final glance at the warrior who had become both ally and friend, he shot skyward to coordinate civilian evacuations. Alone in the Hall of Justice's courtyard, Goku looked up at the dimensional tier that was now easily a mile wide, dark energy pouring from it like liquid shadow. The entity emerging from within was unlike anything he'd encountered, larger than the previous manifestations, but also more focused, more intelligent. Finally, the Void Weaver's enhanced form spoke as it fully materialized, its voice carrying harmonics of absorbed power from across the globe. "The warrior stands alone, as all heroes must in the end." Goku dropped into a fighting stance, but something was different this time. His usual excitement at facing a powerful opponent was tempered by the weight of responsibility he felt. This wasn't just about testing his skills, this was about protecting every innocent life on Earth and beyond. "You know," he said conversationally, "you keep calling me warrior like it's supposed to mean something special. But in my world, being a warrior just means you're willing to fight for what you believe in." "And what do you believe in, anomaly from beyond?" Goku's answer came not in words, but in transformation. His aura exploded outward, but instead of the familiar gold of Super Saiyan or the controlled intensity of Super Saiyan 2, this was something entirely different. His hair shifted to brilliant blue, standing on end as divine ki crackled around his form. The energy radiating from him was unlike anything Earth had ever experienced. Not the cosmic forces the Justice League was familiar with, but something warmer, more alive, fundamentally different from any power in their reality. "This is Super Saiyan Blue," Goku announced, his voice carrying new authority as divine energy swirled around him. "The power of a Super Saiyan combined with the ki of the gods. I believe in protecting people no matter what reality they're from." From across the city, Superman felt the transformation like a pulse in his soul. Through his ki sensing training, he could perceive the incredible warmth and vitality of Goku's divine energy, not cold and distant like other godly beings he'd encountered, but burning with compassion and determination. "I can feel it," he murmured to himself as he guided a group of civilians to safety. "Some kind of divine power, but it's warm, not cold like other gods I've met." Back at the epicenter of the battle, the Void Weaver's enhanced form studied Goku's new transformation with interest that bordered on hunger. "Divine energy, yes, I have consumed gods before. Their power is always the most satisfying." "You can try," Goku replied, his blue aura pulsing with controlled intensity. "But I should warn you, I didn't learn to use this power just for fighting. I learned it to protect what matters most." The battle that erupted was unlike anything Earth had ever witnessed. The enhanced Void Weaver attacked with abilities stolen from heroes across the globe. It moved with Flash's speed, struck with Superman's strength, created constructs with Green Lantern energy, and fought with Wonder Woman's divine enhanced combat skills. It was like facing the entire Justice League's combined abilities turned malevolent and twisted. But Goku had spent years fighting opponents who could copy techniques, and his response was pure artistry in motion. When the entity used speed force acceleration, he countered with instant transmission, appearing and disappearing faster than even stolen superspeed could track. When it created Green Lantern constructs, he shattered them with precisely placed key strikes that disrupted their energy matrices at the quantum level. "Kamehameha," he shouted, the blue-white beam that erupted from his palms carrying the full power of divine ki. The attack struck the Void Weaver head-on, but instead of dispersing like previous manifestations, this one absorbed the energy and immediately turned it back against him. "Clever technique," the entity mocked, firing Goku's own Kamehameha wave back at him with interest. "But I learn quickly, and I have powers you've never encountered." It was right. As the battle continued, Goku found himself facing not just his own techniques turned against him, but abilities from the DC universe that operated on completely different principles. Heat vision that could cut through dimensions, constructs that existed in multiple realities simultaneously, speed that bypassed time itself. "This is impossible," Goku muttered, dodging a combination attack that used Superman's heat vision, channeled through a Green Lantern construct moving at flash-level speeds. It's like fighting 5 different fighting styles at once. But even as he struggled against the entity's stolen abilities, Goku began to notice something troubling. Each time their attacks collided, each time reality warped around their battle, he caught glimpses of something else, other universes, other realities, flickering in and out of existence around them. In one brief flash, he saw his own Earth, Capsule Corporation, the familiar landscape around his home. In another, he glimpsed Chi-Chi and Goten in their kitchen, his wife looking worried as she watched news reports about strange energy readings across their world. "What are you doing?" he demanded, using instant transmission to appear behind the entity and deliver a devastating kick that sent it reeling. "I am showing you the truth," the Void Weaver replied, its form rippling with dark amusement. "Your universe is not separate from this conflict. Even now, the dimensional barriers around your reality weaken. Soon, everything you seek to protect will be part of the feast." More glimpses flashed around them. Universe 7's Earth under attack by similar manifestations. Vegeta fighting desperately against creatures that could drain ki, Piccolo and Gohan working together to protect civilians from interdimensional predators that shouldn't exist. "No," Goku whispered, his divine aura flickering with sudden anguish. His family, his friends, his world, they were all in danger, and he was trapped in another universe, unable to help them. The Void Weaver sensed his emotional turmoil and pressed its advantage, launching a combination attack that used every stolen power simultaneously. Goku, distracted by visions of his home under attack, took the hit full force and was sent crashing through several city blocks before managing to arrest his flight. "You see now," the entity taunted as it advanced on him. "This is not merely about saving this reality. This is about the consumption of all realities. Your family, your friends, your precious Earth, all will feed my eternal hunger." Goku struggled to his feet, divine ki flickering unstably around him as the emotional weight of universal threat pressed down on his shoulders. For the first time since arriving in the DC universe, he felt the crushing pressure of absolute responsibility. But then, cutting through his despair, came Batman's voice over the communication system. "Goku, I've been analyzing the dimensional tiers. The Void Weaver's true form, it exists in the space between dimensions, using these manifestations as remote puppets." "What does that mean?" Goku asked, dodging another combination attack while listening to Batman's analysis. "It means this isn't the real enemy," came the detective's grim reply. "What you're fighting is just another projection, another test. To truly stop this threat, we need to take the fight to its realm, the interdimensional void where it actually exists." Understanding flooded through Goku like a revelation. Every battle, every manifestation, every test, it had all been preparation for this moment. The Void Weaver wasn't trying to defeat him in conventional combat. It was studying him, learning his limits, preparing for a final confrontation in its own domain. "You're right," he said, his divine aura stabilizing as his purpose crystallized. "This whole time, I've been fighting shadows. The real battle hasn't even started yet." The enhanced Void Weaver seemed to sense his realization, and its form began to ripple with what might have been approval. "At last, you begin to understand. Yes, warrior from beyond, this has all been preparation. Soon, you will face me in the realm between realities where your physical form will be meaningless and only the strength of your spirit can prevail." "Looking forward to it," Goku replied, his characteristic grin returning despite the cosmic stakes. "But first, I'm going to stop every manifestation you've sent to threaten innocent people." What happened next defied physics even by DC Universe standards. Goku's divine aura exploded outward, not as an attack, but as a network of energy that connected him to every point where Void Weaver manifestations were draining power from heroes. Using techniques that existed outside conventional spacetime, he began fighting multiple battles simultaneously. His consciousness split across dozens of locations, while his body remained anchored in Metropolis. In New York, his ki-enhanced strikes shattered the manifestation that was draining Spider-Man's powers, restoring the web-slinger's abilities instantly. In Central City, he disrupted the entity that was severing connections to the Speed Force, allowing Bari and other speedsters to access their powers once again. In Coast City, he channeled divine ki through dimensional barriers to strengthen Green Lantern rings that were losing their charge. On Themyscira, he somehow projected protective energy that bolstered the Amazon's divine blessings. All of this happened in the span of seconds, his consciousness operating on levels that transcended normal awareness while his body continued fighting the enhanced manifestation in Metropolis. "Impossible," the Void Weaver hissed, its stolen powers beginning to fade as Goku systematically severed its connections to the other manifestations. "You cannot be in multiple locations simultaneously. You're right, Goku replied, his divine form blazing with intensity as he prepared a final attack. I can't be in multiple places at once, but my ki can be anywhere there are people who need protecting. The Kamehameha wave that erupted from his hands wasn't just energy, it was pure life force, the concentrated essence of every person Goku had ever fought to protect, channeled through divine ki and focused with perfect martial arts technique. It struck the enhanced Void Weaver with such intensity that the entity's form began to break apart, its stolen powers returning to their rightful owners across the globe. As the manifestation dispersed, its final words carried ominous certainty. Soon, all barriers fall. Your universe will join the feast, warrior. And when you face me in my true realm, you will discover that divine power means nothing in the spaces between realities. The dimensional tier above Metropolis sealed itself, leaving only normal sky and the distant sound of sirens responding to the battle's aftermath. Goku powered down from Super Saiyan Blue, swaying slightly from the enormous energy expenditure required to fight on multiple dimensional fronts simultaneously. Superman arrived moments later, having witnessed the global restoration of powers and the simultaneous defeat of manifestations worldwide. How did you? Kai isn't bound by physical limitations the way other energies are, Goku explained, though his voice carried exhaustion. When you're connected to the life force of the universe, you can extend that connection anywhere there's life that needs protecting. The manifestations are retreating worldwide, Cyborg's voice reported through the communication system. Powers are returning to full strength across all affected areas. Whatever you did, Goku, it worked. For now, Goku replied grimly, looking up at the spot where the dimensional tier had been, but that was just the warm-up. The real Void Weaver is still out there, and now it knows everything about my abilities. Batman's voice crackled through their communicators with typical analytical precision. Then we need to take the fight to it before it can prepare adequate counters. Based on my analysis of the dimensional distortions, I believe I can modify Cyborg's boom tube technology to create a portal into the interdimensional void. That's incredibly dangerous, Superman protested. We don't know what kind of environment exists between realities. Which is exactly why I need to go alone, Goku said firmly. My ki-based abilities give me the best chance of surviving in a realm where normal physics don't apply. Absolutely not, Wonder Woman's voice joined the conversation as she returned from the Masira. No warrior should face such a battle without backup, regardless of their strength. Goku looked around at these heroes who barely knew him, yet were willing to risk everything to help him save all of existence. The warmth in his chest had nothing to do with divine ki and everything to do with the bonds he'd formed with these incredible people. All right, he said, his grin returning despite their dire circumstances. Let's plan a trip to a dimension that doesn't exist. Should be interesting. As they began coordinating their assault on the realm between realities, none of them noticed the small figure watching from a distant rooftop. Zeno, the Omni-King, observed their preparations with growing amusement. The Saiyan continues to exceed expectations, the childlike being mused, and these local heroes are proving quite entertaining as well. Yes, this experiment is developing very nicely indeed. The countdown continued, 48 hours until dimensional collapse. The real battle for all existence was about to begin. The Fortress of Solitude's main laboratory had never hosted such an unprecedented collaboration. Batman's portable computers interfaced with Kryptonian crystal technology, while Cyborg's cybernetic systems provided the processing power to bridge the gap between two completely different technological paradigms. The result was something that defied easy classification, part boom tube generator, part dimensional gateway, part controlled reality tier. The theoretical framework is sound, Batman reported, his fingers dancing across holographic displays that showed impossibly complex mathematical equations. By combining Cyborg's mother box technology with Kryptonian transdimensional physics and my analysis of the Void Weaver's energy signatures, we can create a stable portal into the interdimensional void. Define stable, Superman asked, though his tone suggested he wasn't entirely sure he wanted to know the answer. Stable enough to maintain for approximately 30 minutes, Cyborg replied, his mechanical components whirring as they performed calculations that pushed even his advanced systems to their limits. After that, the energy requirements become too massive for our power sources to maintain. 30 minutes, Wonder Woman mused, checking her armor and weapons one final time. In battle, that could be either an eternity or the blink of an eye. Goku sat cross-legged in the center of the laboratory, his eyes closed in deep meditation as he prepared for what might be the most important fight of his life. His ki was perfectly controlled, his aura barely visible, but everyone could feel the incredible power he was carefully containing. Goku, Superman said gently, are you sure about this? Once we enter the Void Realm, we'll be operating in an environment where normal physics don't apply. Your techniques might not work the same way. That's exactly why I need to go, Goku replied without opening his eyes. My ki operates on principles that exist outside conventional physics. If anyone can function in a realm between realities, it's someone whose power comes from within rather than from external forces. Batman pulled up a three-dimensional model of the dimensional void based on sensor data they'd gathered during previous encounters. The image showed a nightmarish landscape where fragments of different realities floated like islands in an ocean of nothingness, connected by bridges of crystallized possibility. According to our analysis, the Void Realm exists in the spaces between dimensional barriers, he explained, pointing to specific areas in the model. It's not empty space, it's anti-space, where the concept of existence itself becomes fluid. Cheerful, Barry muttered, though his attempts at humor couldn't quite mask his concern for his teammates who would be entering this impossible place. There's something else, Cyborg added, his voice carrying uncharacteristic uncertainty. My scans detect fragments of multiple realities within the Void Realm, pieces of worlds that the Void Weaver has already consumed. Goku's eyes snapped open, his meditative calm replaced by sudden intensity. My world, can you detect if any pieces of Universe 7 are in there? I'm not sure, Cyborg admitted. The energy signatures are too fragmented to identify specific dimensional origins. But he paused, his optical sensors focusing on data streams that only he could interpret. There are definitely fragments that match your key signature's universal constants. The implication hung heavy in the crystalline air of the fortress. If pieces of Goku's reality were already in the Void Realm, it meant the Void Weaver's assault on the Dragon Ball universe had begun in earnest. All the more reason to end this quickly, Wonder Woman said firmly, her warrior's pragmatism cutting through the emotional weight of the revelation. Before we begin the final preparations, Superman said, there's something I need to do. He moved to one of the fortress's communication arrays, his fingers working with practiced efficiency as he activated recording systems. Goku, you should leave a message for your family, just in case. For a moment, Goku looked like he wanted to protest, to maintain his usual optimistic confidence. But the weight of what they were about to attempt, the possibility that he might never see Chi-Chi and Goten again, settled over him like a heavy blanket. Yeah, he said quietly. Yeah, I should do that. The recording chamber was simple, just a crystalline alcove with Kryptonian technology that could store and transmit messages across dimensional barriers. Goku stood before the recording crystal, suddenly uncertain about what to say to the family he might never see again. Hi Chi-Chi, hi Goten, he began, his voice carrying uncharacteristic vulnerability. I know you're probably worried about me disappearing like this. I wish I could explain where I am, but it's complicated. He paused, gathering his thoughts, his hand unconsciously moving to touch the photograph in his gi. I'm in another universe, fighting to protect not just their world, but all worlds, including ours. There's something called the Void Weaver that wants to consume every reality that exists, and I'm the only one who might be able to stop it. Superman found himself looking away, giving Goku privacy for what might be his final words to his loved ones. Chi-Chi, I know you always worry when I go off to fight strong opponents, but this time is different. This isn't about testing my strength or seeking out challenges. This is about making sure you and Goten and everyone we care about get to keep existing. His voice grew stronger, more determined. I've met incredible people here, heroes who remind me why we fight in the first place. They don't know me, but they're willing to risk everything to help me protect strangers in universes they've never seen. It makes me proud to be called a hero alongside them. Goku stepped closer to the recording crystal, his expression softening with love and longing. Goten, keep training with Piccolo while I'm gone. And remember what I taught you about martial arts. It's not about being the strongest, it's about protecting what matters most. Chi-Chi, thank you for always believing in me, even when my choices don't make sense. I love you both more than all the stars in the sky. He was quiet for a moment, then his characteristic grin returned. Don't worry about me. I'm going to win this fight, and then I'm going to find a way home. There's no power in any universe strong enough to keep me away from my family permanently. As the recording ended, Goku turned to find his new allies watching him with expressions of respect and understanding. We'll find a way to get that message to them, Superman promised. And we'll find a way to get you home. Thanks, Clark, Goku replied, his emotional moment passing as he refocused on the task ahead. But first, let's save everyone. Batman approached, his cape rustling as he pulled up tactical displays on his portable computer. Final mission briefing. The Void Realm exists outside normal spacetime, which means conventional strategy may not apply. Our primary objective is locating and engaging the Void Weaver's true form. What kind of opposition should we expect? Wonder Woman asked. Unknown, Batman admitted with characteristic honesty. The realm operates on rules that don't exist in any reality we understand. Your divine powers may be enhanced, diminished, or completely altered. My ki should remain stable, Goku added. But everything else is a complete unknown. Cyborg systems chimed with completion alerts as the dimensional gateway reached full operational status. Portal is ready for activation. Power consumption is enormous. We'll have exactly 30 minutes before the energy drain becomes unsustainable. Then we make those 30 minutes count, Superman declared, his cape billowing as he prepared for dimensional travel. Goku, you're our primary combatant. Diana and I will provide support and handle any secondary threats. Wonder Woman drew her sword, the blade gleaming with divine enchantments as she offered a formal warrior's blessing. May the gods watch over you in this battle, son Goku. You carry the hopes of all realities. No pressure, Goku replied with a grin, though his aura began to flicker as he prepared for combat. Remember, Batman said as Cyborg initiated the portal sequence, this isn't about raw power. In a realm where reality is fluid, precision and adaptability will be more valuable than strength. The dimensional gateway activated with a sound like reality tearing itself apart. Where empty air had been moments before, a swirling vortex of impossible colors opened, not a doorway so much as a wound in the fabric of existence itself. Well, Goku said, looking into the swirling chaos, here goes everything. They stepped through together. The Void Realm defied every expectation they'd formed based on theoretical models and sensor data. It wasn't empty space or darkness. It was a landscape of crystallized impossibility, where fragments of countless realities floated like islands in an ocean of liquid starlight. Goku's first step into this interdimensional space sent shockwaves through his key senses. Everything here existed in a state of quantum superposition, simultaneously real and unreal, matter and energy, possibility and actuality. His spiritual awareness was overwhelmed by the presence of infinite potential realities all existing in the same location. Incredible, Wonder Woman breathed, her divine senses detecting the presence of gods and cosmic forces from across the dimensional spectrum. This place, it's like being in the presence of creation itself. Superman's enhanced vision struggled to process what he was seeing. Floating in the distance, he could identify fragments from countless worlds, a piece of Kryptonian architecture, what looked like part of Earth's moon, structures from civilizations he didn't recognize, all suspended in gravitational fields that shouldn't exist. There, Goku said, pointing to a floating island that made his heart clench with recognition. That's part of Capsule Corporation. My world, pieces of it are already here. The fragment of his reality contained not just buildings but frozen moments in time. He could see Bulma working in her lab, oblivious to the dimensional predator that had consumed part of her world. The sight filled him with rage and determination in equal measure. The Void Weaver has been feeding for longer than we realized, Batman observed grimly, his sensors detecting fragments from what appeared to be hundreds of different realities. This isn't just about preventing future consumption, it's about undoing damage that's already been done. As if summoned by their presence, the entity they'd come to face began to manifest. The Void Weaver's true form was beyond any description their minds could process. It existed in multiple dimensions simultaneously, its body composed of crystallized nothingness that somehow maintained coherent form. It was larger than planets but also smaller than atoms, ancient beyond measure but newly born in every moment. When it spoke, its voice came from the spaces between their thoughts. "Welcome to my realm, warriors from the fixed reality," the entity said, its words carrying harmonics of consumed worlds. "Here, in the spaces between existence, your physical forms are merely suggestions. Only the strength of your spirits has meaning." Goku stepped forward, his aura beginning to glow as he accessed Super Saiyan Blue. But something was wrong. The transformation felt different here, more fluid, as if the boundary between his various forms had become permeable. "I've seen what you've done," he said, gesturing to the fragments of consumed realities. "All those worlds, all those people, they deserve to exist." "And they do exist," the Void Weaver replied with what might have been amusement. "Within me, they have achieved perfect unity. No more conflict, no more suffering, no more separation. Is this not preferable to the chaos of infinite realities? No, Goku replied firmly. Everyone's different, that's what makes life interesting. Forcing everything to be the same isn't unity, it's just another kind of death. The philosophical difference between them crystallized into physical combat as the Void Weaver attacked with techniques that existed outside conventional spacetime. Its assault came from multiple dimensional angles simultaneously, past, present, and future converging into a single devastating strike. But Goku's instincts, honed by years of impossible battles, responded with something beyond conscious thought. His body moved with perfect efficiency, dodging attacks that hadn't been thrown yet while positioning himself to counter techniques the entity was still planning. Interesting, the Void Weaver mused as its omnidirectional assault passed through empty space. You move as if unbound by temporal causality. How do you achieve such fluidity? Instead of answering, Goku launched his own counterattack, a combination of instant transmission and Kamehameha that struck the entity from 17 different positions simultaneously. The impact sent shockwaves through the void realm that caused floating reality fragments to resonate like cosmic bells. Superman and Wonder Woman moved to provide support, but they quickly discovered that their powers operated differently in this interdimensional space. Superman's strength seemed to fluctuate based on his emotional state, while Wonder Woman's divine abilities were enhanced by the presence of so many consumed mythologies. Your allies cannot help you here, the Void Weaver declared, its form shifting to block their approach. This realm responds to spiritual strength, not physical power. They are bound by the limitations of their fixed reality. Then it's a good thing I'm not, Goku replied, his aura suddenly exploding outward with silver-tinged light. The transformation that followed was unlike anything he'd achieved before. His hair remained its natural black, but his eyes took on an otherworldly silver gleam. His movements became impossibly fluid, as if he existed in perfect harmony with the chaotic physics of the void realm. Ultra Instinct Omen, he announced, though his voice carried new harmonics that resonated with the interdimensional space around them. In a place where reality is fluid, the perfect technique is one that flows with the current instead of fighting against it. The battle that erupted transcended physical combat. Goku and the Void Weaver fought across multiple dimensional planes simultaneously, their conflict sending ripples through every fragment of consumed reality. Each technique Goku used seemed to awaken echoes from the absorbed worlds, martial arts from countless civilizations responding to his call. But even as he fought with unprecedented skill and power, Goku could sense something troubling. The Void Weaver wasn't just defending itself, it was learning, adapting, incorporating his techniques into its own impossible existence. You begin to understand, the entity said as their latest exchange ended in stalemate. Here, in the realm between realities, all techniques become one technique. All powers merge into a single, perfect unity. To prove its point, the Void Weaver began using perfect copies of Goku's own abilities. Kamehameha, waves that bent through multiple dimensions, instant transmission that bypassed the concept of distance entirely, even crude approximations of Ultra Instinct that made the entity's form flow like liquid mercury. This is impossible, Superman breathed, watching from his position supporting Batman's tactical analysis. It's copying abilities that don't exist in this universe. Because in this realm, the distinction between universes becomes meaningless, the Void Weaver explained, its copied techniques growing more refined with each use. Soon, warrior, you will see the beauty of true unity, all realities merged into one perfect existence. As if to demonstrate its growing power, the entity began pulling more reality fragments toward their battle location. Pieces of Earth, Krypton, the Themyscira, and countless other worlds formed a floating arena around them, each fragment adding its unique physics to the chaotic mix. Goku found himself fighting not just the Void Weaver, but the combined mythologies and power systems of every consumed reality. Gods from 1,000 pantheons, warriors from countless civilizations, and heroes from infinite worlds all echoed through the entity's attacks. You're making one critical mistake, Goku said, his Ultra Instinct form dancing between attacks that existed in multiple timelines. Unity doesn't mean everything has to be the same. Real unity comes from different people choosing to work together. To demonstrate his point, he reached out with his ki, not to attack, but to connect with the fragments of consumed realities around them. Instead of trying to dominate or control these absorbed worlds, he offered them partnership, the chance to exist as themselves while working toward a common goal. The response was immediate and overwhelming. Every fragment of every consumed reality reached back, their combined spiritual energy flowing through Goku's Ultra Instinct form. He became not just a warrior from Universe 7, but a conduit for every being who had ever fought to protect what they loved. "This is true unity," he declared, his aura now containing the hopes and dreams of infinite worlds. Not forced merger, but chosen cooperation. The Void Weaver's form rippled with something that might have been fear. For the first time in eons of existence, it faced something it couldn't simply consume and absorb: the willing collaboration of free spirits who chose to work together while maintaining their individual identity. "Impossible," the entity whispered, its attacks growing more desperate as Goku's empowered Ultra Instinct form began to overwhelm its defenses. "Unity requires uniformity. Diversity leads only to chaos." "No," Goku replied, his voice now carrying the harmonics of every reality he was connected to. "Diversity is what makes unity strong." But even as he gained the advantage, Goku could sense something terrible beginning to happen. The Void Weaver, realizing it couldn't win through conventional combat, was preparing to use its ultimate technique, not consuming realities one at a time, but dragging them all into the Void Realm simultaneously. "If I cannot have controlled unity," the entity declared, its form beginning to expand beyond the boundaries of the floating arena, "then I will have chaotic unity. All realities will merge here in my realm, and in the resulting collapse, I will consume everything." Reality fragments from across the dimensional spectrum began accelerating toward their location. Superman's enhanced vision could see entire worlds being pulled into the Void Realm, not just pieces, but complete realities with all their inhabitants. "It's pulling everything into this space at once," Batman reported, his tactical mind immediately grasping the implications. "If all realities converge here simultaneously, the resulting dimensional collapse will destroy everything." Goku's Ultra Instinct form blazed with silver light as he prepared for the most important technique of his life. Not an attack meant to destroy, but a defense meant to save every possible world. "Everyone," he said, his voice reaching not just his Justice League allies but every fragment of every consumed reality, "we're going to need to work together for this one." As infinite worlds rushed toward convergence in the Void Realm, the ultimate test of Goku's philosophy was about to begin. Could diversity truly create stronger unity than forced conformity? In the next few moments, all of existence would learn the answer. The final battle for the multiverse was reaching its climax. The convergence of infinite realities into the Void Realm created a spectacle that transcended mortal comprehension. Entire universes compressed into the interdimensional space like cosmic accordions, their fundamental laws of physics creating impossible harmonies as they overlapped and interfaced. Through Superman's enhanced vision, he could see Earth, multiple Earths, rushing toward collision with alien worlds, mystical dimensions, and technological utopias beyond imagination. "The dimensional stress is off the charts," Batman reported, his portable computers struggling to process data that existed in 17 different mathematical frameworks simultaneously. "If all these realities collide in the same space, the resulting paradox will collapse into a singularity that consumes everything." Wonder Woman's divine senses screamed warnings as she felt the presence of countless gods, demons, and cosmic entities from across the dimensional spectrum, all being pulled toward the same impossible point. The pantheons of 1,000 worlds, they're all converging here. But Goku wasn't listening to the analysis or feeling the overwhelming cosmic pressure. In this moment, faced with the ultimate test of his abilities, he felt something he'd experienced only a handful of times in his life: perfect clarity. His Ultra Instinct omen flickered, silver light dancing around his form as he prepared to access the complete state. But this time, instead of struggling against the transformation's demands, he embraced them. In a realm where reality was fluid, where the boundaries between possible and impossible had dissolved, Ultra Instinct didn't feel foreign or unstable. It felt like coming home. "This is it," he said quietly, his voice carrying harmonics that resonated with every approaching reality. Ultra Instinct, the complete state. The transformation was beautiful in its simplicity. No explosive aura, no dramatic power-up sequence, just a subtle shift that somehow changed everything. Goku's hair remained black, but his eyes became pools of liquid silver that reflected the infinite possibilities surrounding them. His movements transcended mere physical motion, becoming expressions of pure martial intent that existed independent of conscious thought. In this perfected state, Goku wasn't just fighting the Void Weaver, he was dancing with the fundamental forces that governed existence itself. The entity, sensing the change, pressed its assault with renewed desperation. It attacked with powers drawn from every reality it had ever consumed. The speed of 1,000 flashes, the strength of infinite Supermans, the magic of countless sorcerers, the technology of advanced civilizations beyond counting. But Ultra Instinct Goku moved through this impossible barrage like water flowing around stones. Each attack, no matter how complex or multidimensional, found only empty space where he had been nanoseconds before. His body existed in perfect harmony with the chaotic physics of the Void Realm, responding to threats that originated in dimensions his mind couldn't even perceive. Incredible, Superman breathed, watching from his position, anchoring reality through sheer force of will. He's not just dodging attacks, he's dodging the concept of being attacked. It's more than that, Wonder Woman observed with a warrior's appreciation for transcendent combat artistry. He's fighting with pure joy. Even facing the destroyer of all realities, he finds beauty in the challenge. She was right. Despite the cosmic stakes, despite fighting for the survival of infinite worlds, Goku's silver eyes sparkled with the same enthusiasm he'd shown when sparring with Vegeta or training under Master Roshi. The Void Weaver had given him the ultimate opponent, a being whose power and complexity pushed every aspect of his martial arts mastery to its absolute limits. "Thank you," Goku said as he flowed around a combination attack that used the powers of 17 different realities worth of heroes simultaneously. "I've never had to integrate this many different fighting styles before. You're teaching me things about combat I didn't even know existed." The Void Weaver's multi-dimensional form rippled with what might have been confusion. "You express gratitude as I attempt to destroy everything you seek to protect." "Because you're making me better," Goku replied, his Ultra Instinct state allowing him to speak while simultaneously countering attacks from past, present, and future. "Every technique you force me to develop, every impossible challenge you present, it's all helping me grow as a martial artist." From their position providing support, Batman coordinated the Justice League's efforts with precision born of years fighting impossible odds. "Superman, use your heat vision to stabilize the dimensional matrix around Sector 7. Diana, channel divine energy through the reality anchors I'm establishing. We need to create stable zones where Goku can maneuver." Despite their powers operating differently in the Void Realm, the League members had adapted with remarkable efficiency. Superman's strength fluctuated based on his emotional connection to the realities he was protecting, while Wonder Woman's divine abilities were amplified by the presence of countless mythologies converging around them. "Barry," Batman spoke into his communicator, reaching across dimensional barriers to coordinate with Flash. "We need you to create temporal stabilization fields from your reality. The convergence is creating time paradoxes faster than I can calculate solutions for." "Already on it," came Barry's reply, though his voice carried the strain of pushing his speed-force connection to its limits. "But this is beyond anything I've ever attempted. I'm trying to regulate time flow for infinite realities simultaneously." As the battle between Goku and the Void Weaver intensified, their conflict began affecting the convergence itself. Each perfectly executed technique, each impossible dodge and counter, sent ripples through the colliding realities that helped stabilize the dimensional framework. "He's not just fighting," Batman realized with growing amazement. "Every movement he makes is precisely calculated to reduce the convergence's destructive potential. He's using the battle itself to protect the converging realities." Ultra Instinct Goku flowed between attacks that existed in 17 dimensions simultaneously, his silver aura leaving traces of stability in the chaotic physics around them. When the Void Weaver launched a technique that would have shattered the framework supporting a cluster of magical worlds, Goku's counter not only neutralized the attack, but reinforced the dimensional boundaries protecting those realities. "Impossible," the Void Weaver raged, its form expanding as it drew power from the converging realities. "You cannot protect everything. The nature of existence demands sacrifice." "Does it?" Goku asked, his Ultra Instinct state allowing him to consider philosophical questions while engaged in multidimensional combat. "In my experience, the best solutions are the ones where everyone gets to keep existing." To demonstrate his point, he began using techniques that didn't destroy but transformed. When the entity attacked with absorbed despair from conquered worlds, Goku countered with hope drawn from every reality where heroes had triumphed against impossible odds. When it wielded the accumulated fear of consumed civilizations, he responded with the courage of infinite individuals who had chosen to stand against overwhelming darkness. "You fight not just for victory," Wonder Woman observed, her divine wisdom recognizing something profound in Goku's combat philosophy, but for the right of all existence to continue existing. Everyone deserves a chance to grow, to change, to become something better, Goku replied, his silver eyes reflecting the infinite possibilities surrounding them. That includes you, he added, directing his words to the Void Weaver itself. The entity's attacks faltered for a moment, its multidimensional consciousness processing a concept it had never encountered. The possibility of redemption rather than consumption. Redemption, it whispered, its voice carrying harmonics of confused hope. For one who has consumed countless realities, everyone can change, Goku said firmly, his ultra instinct form radiating warmth that somehow penetrated the entity's crystallized darkness. The question is whether you want to. But even as he offered this philosophical olive branch, Goku's enhanced awareness detected something terrible happening within the convergence. The Void Weaver's internal structure was beginning to collapse under the strain of containing so many realities simultaneously. If the entity's form failed while all these worlds were inside it. It's destabilizing, Batman reported grimly, his sensors detecting critical fluctuations in the entity's coherence matrix. If it loses structural integrity while the realities are still inside its form, the resulting explosion will destroy everything anyway. Superman's face paled as he grasped the implications. Every world it's ever consumed, plus all the ones it's currently absorbing, they'll all be destroyed in the collapse. The Void Weaver seemed to realize this as well, its attacks becoming more frantic as it struggled to maintain coherence while processing infinite realities. I cannot contain them all. The convergence exceeds even my capacity. Goku's ultra instinct awareness immediately identified the only solution, and his pure heart accepted it without hesitation. There was one way to prevent the catastrophic collapse, one technique that could save every converging reality, but it would require the ultimate sacrifice. There is another way, he said quietly, his silver aura beginning to pulse with new purpose. You can absorb me. Goku, no, Superman's protest carried across dimensional barriers with desperate urgency. There has to be another way. Sometimes, protecting people means taking risks, Goku replied, his voice carrying gentle certainty. You taught me that, Clark. Heroes don't look for safe solutions. They do whatever it takes to save everyone else. Wonder Woman's warrior instincts recognized the tactical brilliance of his plan even as her heart rebelled against it. You mean to overload it from within, use your ki to destabilize its absorption processes. More than that, Goku said, his ultra instinct state allowing him to perceive the entity's internal structure with perfect clarity. The Void Weaver processes consumed realities by breaking down their individual characteristics and merging them into a unified whole. But my ki operates on principles that don't exist in any single reality. It comes from the connections between all living things. Batman's analytical mind grasped the implications immediately. Kai, that represents universal connections rather than individual power. If you can maintain those connections while being absorbed, I can act as a stabilizing influence from within, Goku finished. Instead of being broken down and consumed, I can help the absorbed realities maintain their individual existence while finding harmony together. The risk is enormous, Superman protested, his voice heavy with anguish. If you lose coherence inside that thing, then I lose coherence protecting every world that's ever existed, Goku replied with his characteristic grin. I can't think of a better way to go out. Before anyone could stop him, Goku deactivated his defensive techniques and opened his Ultra Instinct aura wide, making himself maximally vulnerable to the Void Weaver's absorption processes. Come on, he called to the entity, his silver eyes blazing with determination. Let's see what true unity really looks like. The Void Weaver, driven by eons of instinct and desperate to stabilize its collapsing form, immediately began absorbing Goku's essence. Dark energy wrapped around his Ultra Instinct form like liquid shadows, pulling him into the entity's core dimension. Goku, Superman's anguished cry echoed across the Void Realm as he watched his friend and ally disappear into the cosmic predator's form. Inside the Void Weaver's internal dimension, Goku found himself in a realm of crystallized despair. Here, the absorbed realities existed as compressed fragments of their former selves, their individual characteristics slowly being dissolved into homogeneous unity. He could see pieces of his own world, Capsule Corporation, Mount Paozu, the tournament grounds where he'd fought so many incredible battles. But more troubling were the manifestations of absorbed consciousness that surrounded him. Heroes from countless realities, their hope and determination compressed into crystallized fragments, approached with expressions of resigned defeat. "You cannot save us," spoke a figure that might have been another universe's Superman, its form flickering between hope and despair. "We are all one now. Individual existence is painful. Unity brings peace." "Does it?" Goku asked, his ultra instinct state allowing him to perceive the truth beneath their words. "Or does it just make the pain easier to ignore?" Around him, fragments of absorbed heroes began to stir, not with resignation, but with remembered purpose. A green lantern from some distant reality lifted a flickering ring. A Wonder Woman from an alternate timeline gripped a sword that existed in 17 dimensions simultaneously. A Flash whose speed force had been consumed for eons took a tentative step forward. "We had forgotten," the crystallized Superman whispered, his form becoming more solid as individual identity reasserted itself. "The joy of choosing to fight for others. The beauty of being unique while standing together." Goku's silver aura began to spread throughout the entity's internal dimension, not dominating or consuming but connecting. His ki reached out to every absorbed fragment, every compressed reality, offering not unity through uniformity but harmony through diversity. "This is what true unity looks like," he said, his voice carrying across the crystallized fragments of infinite worlds. Everyone choosing to work together while staying themselves. The effect was immediate and overwhelming. Every absorbed reality began to resonate with his key signature, their individual characteristics becoming stronger rather than dissolving. Heroes from countless universes stood up with renewed purpose. Gods from infinite pantheons remembered their individual domains. Entire civilizations recalled their unique cultures and values. The Void Weaver's consciousness reeled as its fundamental nature was challenged from within. "Impossible. Unity requires uniformity. Diversity leads to chaos." "No," Goku replied, his ultra instinct form now blazing with the combined hopes and dreams of every absorbed reality. "Diversity is what makes unity beautiful." From outside the entity, Superman and the others watched in amazement as the Void Weaver's form began to change. Instead of the dark, crystallized structure of forced unity, it began to glow with warm light, not uniform brightness, but a spectrum containing every possible color, representing the infinite diversity of absorbed realities choosing to work together. "He's doing it," Wonder Woman breathed, her divine senses detecting the transformation occurring within the cosmic entity. "He's teaching it to embrace diversity rather than consuming it." But even as hope blossomed, Goku could sense that his ultra instinct state was reaching its limits. The enormous energy required to maintain perfect martial flow, while simultaneously connecting to infinite realities, was pushing even his legendary endurance beyond its breaking point. "I can't hold this forever," he admitted to the absorbed consciousnesses around him, "but I can give you the chance to hold it yourselves." With his final reserves of ultra instinct energy, Goku performed the most complex technique of his life. Instead of a Kamehameha wave designed to destroy, he channeled a key technique meant to empower, transferring not just his energy, but his understanding of true unity to every absorbed reality simultaneously. "Kamehameha!" he shouted, but the blue-white beam that erupted from his hands carried something more precious than destructive power. It carried the knowledge of how different beings could choose to work together while maintaining their individual beauty. The explosion that followed wasn't one of destruction, but of rebirth. Every absorbed reality, empowered by Goku's understanding and choice, began to separate from the Void Weaver's internal structure while maintaining the connections that bound them together in willing cooperation. From outside the entity, the Justice League watched as the Void Weaver's scream echoed across dimensions, not a cry of pain, but of profound transformation. The crystallized structure of forced unity dissolved, replaced by a flowing matrix of voluntary harmony where infinite realities could coexist without losing their individual characteristics. "The convergence is stabilizing," Batman reported with amazement. "Every reality is returning to its proper dimensional position, but they're maintaining connection channels that allow for voluntary cooperation." "And Goku?" Superman asked, his enhanced vision searching the transforming entity for any sign of his friend. As if in answer to his question, a familiar figure emerged from the heart of the transformed entity, no longer the Void Weaver, but something new, something better. Goku's ultra instinct form was flickering unstably, silver light fading as his body reached the absolute limits of what was possible. But he was smiling. "Did we win?" he asked as he collapsed into Superman's arms, his ultra instinct state finally giving out completely. "We won," Superman confirmed, his voice thick with emotion as he held his unconscious friend. "Every reality gets to keep existing. You saved everyone, Goku." As the transformed entity began facilitating the orderly return of realities to their proper dimensions, its voice carried new harmonics, not the cold certainty of forced unity, but the warm complexity of chosen cooperation. "I understand now," it said, addressing the heroes who had taught it a better way. "True unity comes not from making everything the same, but from everything choosing to work together while remaining beautifully different." The crisis was over. Every reality would survive, every world would continue existing, and the multiverse had gained something precious. A guardian dedicated not to uniformity, but to the celebration of infinite diversity. But the cost had been enormous, and as Goku's unconscious form flickered with the aftereffects of Ultra Instinct overuse, the question remained: would the warrior who had saved all existence survive his own heroic sacrifice? The battle was won, but the war for Goku's life was just beginning. The medical bay of the Watchtower had hosted many extraordinary patients over the years, heroes who had pushed their bodies beyond human limits, aliens whose physiology defied terrestrial medicine, and beings whose very existence challenged conventional understanding of biology. But it had never hosted a patient whose cellular structure seemed to exist in a state of quantum flux, flickering between normal matter and pure energy. "His bioreadings are unlike anything in our medical database," Dr. Sarah Chen reported, her voice carrying professional concern as she studied the holographic displays surrounding Goku's unconscious form. "His cells are regenerating at an incredible rate, but they're also destabilizing at the quantum level. It's as if his body can't decide whether it wants to exist as matter or energy." Superman stood beside the medical pod, his cape draped over his shoulders as he watched his friend's fitful recovery. Through the transparent aluminum barrier, he could see Goku's face twisted in what looked like dreams, or perhaps memories of battles fought across multiple dimensional planes. The Ultra Instinct transformation pushed his physiology beyond its designed limits, Batman observed from his position at the monitoring station, multiple screens showing analysis data that his computers were still struggling to categorize. "According to my calculations, maintaining that state while channeling the key of infinite realities should have been impossible for any organic being. Yet he did it anyway," Wonder Woman added, her divine senses detecting the lingering traces of transcendent energy that still flickered around Goku's form. The warrior's spirit within him refused to accept impossibility when the alternative was universal destruction. Cyborg interfaced directly with the medical systems, his technological components providing processing power that helped translate Goku's alien physiology into data the medical equipment could work with. The good news is that his life signs are stabilizing. The concerning news is that whatever energy matrix normally governs his transformations has been severely disrupted. "Meaning?" Superman asked, though he suspected he wouldn't like the answer. "Meaning his access to Super Saiyan forms, key techniques, even basic energy projection may be compromised for an extended period," Dr. Chen replied grimly. "His body is prioritizing basic survival over advanced combat capabilities." The implications hung heavy in the recycled air of the medical bay. Goku had saved every reality in existence, but the cost might have been the very abilities that made him capable of such cosmic heroism. "How long until he wakes up?" Bari asked as he vibrated through the medical bay's sealed door, his speed-force connection fully restored and crackling with relief at being able to run again. "Unknown," Batman replied with his characteristic directness. "His physiology operates on principles we don't fully understand. He could wake up in an hour, or he could remain unconscious for weeks." As if responding to their conversation, Goku's eyes fluttered open, revealing not the silver gleam of Ultra Instinct or the intensity of Saiyan transformation, but simple brown eyes filled with confusion and exhaustion. "Did we win?" he asked weakly, his voice barely above a whisper as he tried to sit up in the medical pod. "Easy there," Superman said gently, placing a restraining hand on Goku's shoulder. "Yes, we won. Every reality is safe. The entity you fought, it's not the Void Weaver anymore. It's something new, something better." Goku's face broke into a tired but genuine smile. "Good, that's good." He paused, testing his body's responses as Dr. Chen ran additional scans. "Though I feel like I got hit by a planet, maybe 2 planets. You pushed your abilities beyond their theoretical limits," Batman explained, his tone carrying unusual warmth. "The fact that you're conscious at all is remarkable." "Can I?" Goku began to concentrate, trying to access his ki for even the most basic energy projection. A faint flicker of light appeared around his hand for a moment before fading entirely, leaving him looking confused and slightly panicked. "I can't feel my ki properly. It's like trying to grab something through thick gloves." Dr. Chen checked her readings, her expression professionally sympathetic. Your energy channels have been overloaded. Think of it like a muscle that's been strained beyond its capacity. It needs time to heal before it can function normally again. How much time? Goku asked, though his tone suggested he already suspected the answer wouldn't be encouraging. Weeks, possibly months, Batman replied honestly. Your transformation abilities, your key techniques, even your enhanced physical capabilities, all of them will likely be severely limited until your body recovers. For a moment, Goku's face fell with genuine dismay. In his universe, his strength had always been the tool he used to protect others, the means by which he could face any threat that endangered innocent lives. The idea of being powerless, even temporarily, was almost unbearable. Hey, Superman said gently, recognizing the look of someone grappling with unwanted vulnerability. Being strong isn't just about having powers. You saved every reality that exists using more than just ki. You used wisdom, compassion, and the ability to see solutions where others saw only problems. Wonder Woman nodded in agreement. The greatest warriors are not those who never fall, but those who rise again after falling. Your strength of spirit remains undiminished, even if your body requires healing. Besides, Barry added with a grin, now I might actually have a chance in that rematch we talked about. Despite his exhaustion and concern about his condition, Goku found himself laughing, a sound that carried his characteristic warmth and optimism. You think losing my powers makes me easy to beat? I learned martial arts long before I could transform, Barry. We'll see about that, Barry replied, though his competitive tone was softened by obvious relief that Goku was awake and alert. Over the following days, as Goku's condition stabilized and he was transferred to more comfortable quarters in the Hall of Justice, the heroes of the DC universe found excuses to visit with remarkable frequency. Each brought their own perspective on recovery, heroism, and the bonds formed through shared struggle. Batman was among the first visitors, arriving with portable computers and data pads filled with analysis from the Void Realm encounter. He settled into a chair beside Goku's bed with uncharacteristic casualness, his cape draped over the seat back. I wanted to apologize, Bruce began without preamble, his voice carrying unusual humility. When we first met, I underestimated you. I saw raw power and assumed it indicated a lack of tactical thinking. Goku tilted his head curiously, still weak but alert. Why would you think that? Experience, Batman replied grimly. Most beings with your level of power rely on brute force rather than strategy, but watching you fight the Void Weaver. The way you turned philosophical discussion into tactical advantage, used the entity's own nature against it, and ultimately found a solution that saved everyone rather than simply defeating an enemy. He paused, his analytical mind still processing the implications. That was the most sophisticated combat strategy I've ever witnessed. It wasn't really strategy, Goku admitted with his characteristic modesty. I just didn't want anyone to get hurt. When you care about protecting people, you find ways to make things work. Batman studied this remarkable person who consistently defied his expectations. That's exactly what I mean. You've integrated tactical thinking so completely into your combat philosophy that you don't even recognize it as separate from your desire to help others. They talked for hours about martial arts philosophy, the psychology of combat, and the responsibilities that came with power. Despite their vastly different approaches to heroism, both men discovered a shared understanding of what it meant to dedicate one's life to protecting others. Superman's visits were different in character, but equally meaningful. He often brought food, home-cooked meals from Martha Kent that filled Goku's room with the warm aromas of Kansas farmhouse cooking. Ma insisted on sending these, Clark explained, as he unpacked containers of fried chicken, mashed potatoes, and fresh-baked apple pie. She said anyone who saves the universe deserves a proper meal during recovery. Your mother sounds amazing, Goku said, his eyes lighting up as he tasted food that reminded him of Chi-Chi's cooking. This is incredible. It tastes like home. Clark settled into the visitor's chair, his expression growing thoughtful as he watched Goku's obvious enjoyment of the simple meal. I know what it's like to be far from home, surrounded by people who care about you but don't fully understand where you come from. Yeah, Goku looked up from his meal, recognizing something familiar in Superman's tone. I'm the last of my kind, Clark continued quietly. Krypton was destroyed when I was an infant. Earth became my home, humanity became my family, but there are times when the isolation is overwhelming. Knowing that everything that made you who you are exists only in your memories. Goku set down his fork, his expression growing serious as he considered Clark's words. That must be really hard. At least I know my world still exists. I'm just separated from it temporarily. Temporarily, Clark repeated with a slight smile. That's what makes you remarkable, Goku. Despite everything you've been through, you maintain absolute faith that you'll find your way home. Because I will, Goku replied with quiet certainty. No matter how long it takes, no matter what obstacles I face, I'm going to see my family again. That's not optimism, Clark, that's just fact. The conviction in his voice was so complete, so unshakable, that Clark found his own spirits lifting. If Goku could maintain such faith while stranded in an alien reality, perhaps Clark could find similar peace with his own unique circumstances. Wonder Woman's visits brought a different perspective, that of a warrior who understood the cost of victory. She often brought her sword and shield, using their presence to demonstrate various Amazon combat techniques while discussing the philosophy of warfare. In Amazon culture, she explained as she moved through a series of defensive forms, we believe that the greatest warriors are those who fight not for glory or conquest, but for the protection of those who cannot protect themselves. That makes sense, Goku replied, watching her movements with professional interest despite his current inability to demonstrate his own techniques. Fighting for others always makes you stronger than fighting for yourself. Diana paused in her demonstration, her warrior's instincts recognizing wisdom in his simple statement. You speak as one who has learned this truth through experience rather than instruction. Every fight that really mattered was about protecting someone, Goku confirmed. My friends, my family, my planet, strangers I'd never met. Those battles always brought out abilities I didn't know I had. They shared stories of their respective battles, Diana's accounts of fighting alongside the Justice League against cosmic threats, Goku's tales of tournaments that determined the fate of universes. Despite the vastly different contexts, both warriors recognized the same fundamental truth. Strength without purpose was merely destruction, but strength wielded in service of others could accomplish the impossible. Barry's visits were the most lighthearted, often involving attempts to recreate their race around Centennial Park at purely human speeds. To his chagrin, even without access to his ki-enhanced abilities, Goku's natural athleticism and martial arts training made him formidable at baseline human levels. This is ridiculous, Barry panted after their third lap around the Hall of Justice's training facility. You don't have powers right now, how are you still faster than me? Training, Goku replied cheerfully, barely breathing hard despite matching Barry's pace. In my world, martial artists spend decades conditioning their bodies before they learn to use ki. Physical fitness is the foundation everything else builds on. Note to self, Barry wheezed, add more conventional exercise to training regimen. But beneath the competitive banter, Barry's visits served an important purpose. His natural optimism and enthusiasm helped counteract the periods of depression that sometimes overwhelmed Goku when he contemplated how long it might take to return home. You know, Barry said during one particularly thoughtful conversation, I've been thinking about what you said about diversity making unity stronger. That concept. It's changed how I approach problems, both as the Flash and as Barry Allen. How so? Goku asked, genuinely curious. Before, when I faced a crisis, I'd try to solve it myself using speed. Now I realize that different perspectives, different abilities, different approaches, they create better solutions than any single person could achieve alone. Barry's expression grew more serious. You didn't just save the multiverse, Goku. You taught us a better way to be heroes. As the weeks passed, Goku's condition gradually improved, but the promised return of his transformation abilities remained frustratingly elusive. He could access basic ki manipulation, enough to sense energy signatures and perform simple enhancement techniques, but the explosive power of Super Saiyan forms remained beyond his reach. The frustration was compounded by homesickness that grew stronger each day. During quiet moments, he would pull out the photograph of Chi-Chi and Goten, studying their faces with an expression that broke the hearts of everyone who saw it. I keep wondering what they're doing right now, he confided to Superman during one of their evening conversations. Are they training? Is Chi-Chi cooking dinner? Does Goten miss having his dad around to spar with? They know you're fighting to protect them, Clark replied gently. That knowledge will sustain them until you can return. But what if I can't return? Goku asked quietly, voicing the fear he'd been suppressing. What if the dimensional barriers are too damaged? What if I'm stuck here forever? Clark was quiet for a moment, recognizing the same existential fear he'd grappled with his entire life, the possibility of permanent separation from everything that defined home. Then you make a new home, he said finally. You find family among people who care about you, and you keep fighting to protect what matters most. It's not the same as what you've lost, but it can still be meaningful. Despite Clark's wisdom and the support of his new friends, Goku's spirits continued to decline as the reality of his situation set in. He was stranded in an alien universe, cut off from his powers, with no clear path home to the family he loved more than life itself. But unknown to the recovering warrior, brilliant minds across the DC universe were working on a solution. Batman, Cyborg, and a team of scientists at the Fortress of Solitude had been analyzing the dimensional resonance data collected during their Void Realm adventure. Using Kryptonian transdimensional technology, mother box algorithms, and theoretical frameworks developed through studying Goku's unique key signature, they were slowly piecing together the components needed for the most ambitious project in the history of either universe. The energy requirements are staggering, Cyborg reported during one of their planning sessions, creating a stable portal to a completely different dimensional matrix. We're talking about power consumption that exceeds the output of entire stars. But it's theoretically possible, Batman confirmed, his fingers flying across holographic displays that showed incredibly complex calculations. The key is using Goku's own key signature as a dimensional anchor. His energy pattern contains quantum markers from his home reality that could serve as navigational coordinates. Assuming we can convince him to risk the attempt, Superman added, joining their conversation. Given his current condition, channeling the amount of ki required for dimensional navigation could be extremely dangerous. From the Fortress's advanced medical scanners, they had determined that Goku's power suppression was psychological as much as physical. The trauma of pushing Ultra Instinct beyond its limits had created subconscious barriers that prevented him from accessing his full abilities, even as his body healed. He needs a reason to push past those barriers, Batman observed with clinical precision, something that matters enough to override his mind's protective mechanisms. He needs to believe it's possible to go home, Superman concluded, and he needs to trust us enough to take the risk. Their conversation was interrupted by alarms throughout the fortress as long-range sensors detected something approaching Earth's dimensional boundary. The energy signature was massive, ancient, and completely unfamiliar, something that existed outside the normal cosmic hierarchy. Unknown entity approaching Earth, Cyborg confirmed, his systems interfacing with the fortress's detection grid. Energy readings suggest it exists partially outside our dimensional framework. And, he paused, his optical sensors focusing on data that defied easy interpretation. It's specifically seeking Goku's key signature. Batman's expression grew grim behind his cowl. The dimensional repairs from our Void Realm adventure, they've attracted attention. From what? Superman asked, though he suspected the answer would be troubling. Something that considers Goku's intervention in the multiverse convergence to be problematic, Batman replied, his tactical mind already working through defense scenarios. We may have saved all realities, but apparently not everyone is happy about our methods. As the unknown entity continued its approach toward Earth, its alien consciousness broadcast a message across all frequencies, in all languages, simultaneously. The anomaly will be corrected. The warrior who disrupted cosmic balance will be returned to proper dimensional alignment. Prepare for recalibration. In his recovery room at the Hall of Justice, Goku felt a chill that had nothing to do with temperature. His limited ki senses detected the approaching presence, and something about its energy signature filled him with instinctive dread. "Guys," he called weakly, using the communication system beside his bed, "I think we've got company. And I don't think they're here to thank us for saving the multiverse." Superman's voice crackled through the speaker with barely controlled urgency. "We're detecting it too. Something powerful is coming, and it's specifically looking for you." "Then I guess it's time to get back in fighting shape," Goku replied, his voice carrying new determination as he struggled to sit up in bed. "Whether my powers are working properly or not." As the sun set over Metropolis, painting the sky in brilliant oranges and purples, Goku made his way to the Daily Planet's roof with Superman's help. The view from the top of the building reminded him of similar moments in his own world, quiet interludes between battles where he could appreciate the simple beauty of existence. "Thank you," he said quietly as they stood together watching the sunset. "For everything, for believing in me, for helping me save everyone, for being friends when I needed them most." "Thank you," Clark replied with equal sincerity, "for showing us what it really means to be a hero. You didn't just save the multiverse, Goku, you made all of us better at what we do." They stood in comfortable silence, two warriors from different worlds who had found brotherhood in their shared dedication to protecting others. Neither mentioned the approaching threat or the uncertainty about Goku's future. For this moment, it was enough to simply exist in the peace they had fought so hard to preserve. But even as they watched the sun disappear behind Metropolis's skyline, both heroes knew that their greatest challenges still lay ahead. The multiverse was safe, but the cost of that victory was about to be tested by forces neither of them fully understood. The next phase of their adventure was about to begin, and this time, the stakes might be more personal than cosmic. The approaching entity turned out to be less threatening than initially feared, but infinitely more complex. It materialized above Earth not as a weapon or invader, but as what could only be described as a cosmic auditor, a being whose purpose was to investigate dimensional irregularities and ensure universal balance remained intact. "I am the restoration entity," it announced, its form shifting between geometric perfection and organic fluidity as it scanned Earth's dimensional framework. "I have come to investigate reports of unauthorized multiversal intervention and reality manipulation." Batman coordinated the Justice League's response from the Watchtower, his tactical mind already working through diplomatic protocols for dealing with cosmic bureaucracy. "It's not hostile," he reported to the assembled team, "but it considers our actions in the Void Realm to be problematic." "How problematic?" Superman asked, though he suspected he didn't want to know the answer. "It views Goku as a dimensional contaminant," the restoration entity replied, apparently having no difficulty monitoring their communications. "His presence in this reality creates quantum instabilities that threaten the structural integrity of your dimensional matrix." From his recovery bed in the Hall of Justice, Goku listened to the conversation with growing unease. The cosmic entity was right, in a sense. His arrival had brought nothing but crisis and danger to this peaceful world. Perhaps it would be better for everyone if he simply accepted whatever correction the entity deemed necessary. But before he could voice these dark thoughts, Superman's voice crackled through the communication system with absolute certainty. "Goku isn't going anywhere. He saved this reality, saved all realities. If there are quantum instabilities, we'll figure out how to fix them together." "Agreed," Wonder Woman added firmly. "The warrior has proven his worth beyond question. We will not abandon an ally simply because his presence creates complications." Even Batman, despite his pragmatic nature, supported their stance. "The dimensional instabilities are manageable with proper monitoring and adjustment protocols. The benefits of Goku's knowledge and abilities far outweigh the risks." Listening to these heroes defend him without hesitation, despite barely knowing him for more than a few weeks, Goku felt something warm and powerful stirring in his chest. Not his ki that remained frustratingly suppressed, but something deeper. The strength that came from knowing you weren't alone. The restoration entity eventually departed after extensive negotiations, agreeing to monitor the situation rather than taking immediate corrective action. But its presence had served as a reminder that Goku's stay in the DC universe was creating ripple effects that extended far beyond Earth. "We need to accelerate our dimensional portal research," Batman concluded during their post-crisis briefing. "The longer Goku remains here, the more attention we're likely to attract from cosmic entities who view his presence as disruptive." "How's the portal project progressing?" Superman asked, though he found himself conflicted about the answer. Part of him wanted to help his friend return home, but another part had grown accustomed to having Goku as an ally and friend. "Theoretically sound, practically challenging," Cyborg reported from his interface with the Fortress of Solitude's computers. "The energy requirements exceed anything we can safely generate on Earth. We're talking about power output equivalent to a small star." "What about alternative energy sources?" Wonder Woman suggested. "Divine power, speed force energy, Green Lantern constructs. All potentially viable as supplemental power," Batman replied, "but we'd still need Goku himself to serve as the primary energy source. His key signature is the only navigational anchor we have for his home dimension." The catch was obvious to everyone. Goku's power suppression meant he currently couldn't access the level of ki needed for dimensional navigation. His abilities were slowly returning, but nowhere near the cosmic levels required for interdimensional travel. "Then we help him recover faster," Superman decided. "Whatever he needs, training partners, emotional support, motivation, we provide it." Over the following weeks, the Justice League threw themselves into Goku's rehabilitation with the same dedication they brought to saving the world. Each member contributed their unique perspective and abilities to help him regain his strength. Superman's approach was both practical and philosophical. During their training sessions in the Fortress of Solitude, he worked to help Goku understand the key sensing techniques he'd learned, while also exploring the deeper principles of heroism that connected their different universes. Feel the energy around you, Goku instructed during one of their sessions, his own ki still flickering uncertainly as he demonstrated basic sensing techniques. Don't use your super senses, use your spiritual awareness. Clark closed his eyes, extending his consciousness the way Goku had taught him. Slowly, gradually, he began to perceive the warm glow that represented all life on Earth. Billions of individual signatures, creating a tapestry of existence that was breathtakingly beautiful. "I can feel them," he whispered in amazement. "Every person in Metropolis, their emotions, their hopes and fears." "That's it," Goku said with genuine pride, though his voice carried exhaustion from even this basic instruction. Kai sensing creates connections between all living things. The more you develop this ability, the better you'll understand not just what people need, but how to help them. Their conversations often drifted to the deeper questions of heroism, why they fought, what they hoped to achieve, and how to maintain hope in the face of seemingly impossible challenges. "In my world," Goku said during one particularly thoughtful discussion, "I learned that the strongest opponents aren't always the most evil ones. Sometimes they're just lost, confused about what strength really means." "Like the Void Weaver," Clark observed. "It wasn't evil, it just had a fundamentally different understanding of unity and existence." Exactly. And the best victories aren't the ones where you defeat your enemy, they're the ones where you help them find a better way. These philosophical exchanges were as valuable to Clark as the key sensing training. Goku's perspective on conflict resolution, viewing enemies as potential allies who simply needed to understand a better path, challenged Clark's own approaches to heroism in profound ways. Batman's contribution to Goku's recovery was characteristically analytical but surprisingly personal. He had developed a comprehensive rehabilitation program that addressed not just the physical aspects of power suppression, but the psychological barriers that were preventing full recovery. "Your subconscious mind is protecting you," he explained during one of their sessions in the Batcave, multiple screens showing brainwave patterns and energy readings as Goku attempted basic ki projection. The trauma of pushing Ultra Instinct beyond its limits created mental barriers designed to prevent similar overexertion. "How do I overcome them?" Goku asked, frustrated by his continued inability to access his higher transformations. "By rebuilding confidence gradually," Batman replied, his tone carrying unusual gentleness. "Your mind needs proof that you can use your abilities safely before it will allow full access." Their training sessions often took place in Wayne Manor's extensive grounds, where Goku helped Bruce refine his combat techniques, while Bruce provided tactical analysis that helped Goku understand the psychological aspects of martial arts mastery. "You're already incorporating key principles into your fighting style," Goku observed as they sparred in the pre-dawn light, both men moving with fluid precision despite the early hour. "Your stealth techniques, your ability to appear and disappear, you're using spiritual awareness to move through your environment." "I hadn't realized," Bruce admitted, pausing their sparring to consider the implications. "You're saying my detective skills and combat abilities are actually forms of ki manipulation." "Everything is ki manipulation if you understand it properly," Goku replied with a grin. "The difference is whether you're doing it consciously or instinctively." These insights proved valuable for both warriors. Bruce began incorporating conscious ki awareness into his crime-fighting methods, while Goku learned to appreciate the tactical applications of stealth and misdirection. Wonder Woman approached Goku's recovery from the perspective of a fellow warrior who understood the spiritual dimensions of combat. Their training sessions on the Masira, where she had brought him for specialized recovery work, focused on the connection between warriors' spirit and physical ability. "In Amazon culture," she explained as they moved through traditional combat forms on the island's training grounds, "we believe that true strength comes from harmony between mind, body, and spirit. Your power suppression suggests this harmony has been disrupted." "How do we restore it?" Goku asked, his movements still lacking the fluid perfection he'd once taken for granted. "Through understanding the deeper purpose of your strength," Diana replied, demonstrating a technique that seemed to flow directly from her spiritual center. "You saved all realities not through raw power, but through wisdom, compassion, and the ability to see solutions others missed." Their conversations often focused on the responsibility that came with great power and how to maintain one's essential humanity while wielding abilities that could reshape reality itself. The greatest danger for any warrior, Diana observed during one of their philosophical discussions, is losing sight of why we fight. Power without purpose becomes destruction, strength without wisdom becomes tyranny. That's why I like fighting strong opponents, Goku replied thoughtfully. Every battle teaches me something new about myself, shows me areas where I need to grow. The goal isn't to become invincible, it's to become wise enough to use whatever strength I have for the right reasons. Barry's approach to helping Goku recover was uniquely energetic and surprisingly effective. Despite, or perhaps because of, his naturally optimistic personality, he had an intuitive understanding of how to motivate someone struggling with depression and power loss. "You know what your problem is," Barry announced during one of their training sessions, both men breathing heavily after attempting to recreate their earlier racing competition. "You're thinking too much about what you can't do instead of focusing on what you can do." "What I can do isn't enough to get me home," Goku replied with uncharacteristic pessimism. "Says who?" Barry challenged. "You're still the fastest person I know, even without your transformations. You can still sense key signatures across continents. You can still do things with martial arts that make physics professors cry. Maybe you can't blow up planets right now, but since when has that been the point?" Barry's relentless positivity was infectious, and his training methods, focused on rediscovering joy in movement and competition rather than dwelling on lost abilities, proved remarkably effective at lifting Goku's spirits. "Race you to Central City," Barry suggested during one particularly successful session. "You're on," Goku replied, and for the first time in weeks, his grin carried genuine excitement rather than forced optimism. The cultural integration aspects of Goku's recovery provided both humor and genuine insight into the differences between their worlds. Clark had arranged for Goku to spend a day working at the Daily Planet, partly to help him understand the concept of secret identities that continued to baffle him. "So you pretend to be weaker than you actually are," Goku said as he sat at Clark's desk, pecking uncertainly at a keyboard while attempting to write a news article about recent improvements to Metropolis's public transportation system. "And people believe this because you wear glasses." "It's more complicated than that," Clark replied, though he had to admit the explanation sounded thin when presented so directly. "The glasses are just part of a whole persona. Clark Kent is mild-mannered, clumsy, submissive, everything Superman isn't." "But why?" Goku asked, genuinely confused. "In my world, if you're strong, people know you're strong. It makes it easier to protect them when they trust your abilities." "Because having a secret identity protects the people I care about," Clark explained patiently. "If villains knew Superman was Clark Kent, they might target Martha and Jonathan Kent, or Lois Lane, or my friends here at the planet." Goku considered this for several minutes, his alien perspective on heroism struggling to process the concept of compartmentalizing one's life to protect others. "I think I understand," he said finally. "It's like a form of tactical misdirection. You create a false target to draw attention away from your real vulnerabilities." "Exactly," Clark said with relief. "Though when you put it that way, it sounds almost deceptive." "All fighting involves some deception," Goku replied pragmatically. "The question is whether you're deceiving people to protect them or to gain advantage over them. Your secret identity protects innocent people, so it's good deception." Their philosophical discussion was interrupted by Perry White's booming voice. "Kent, where's that transportation story? We go to print in 2 hours." "Right here, Mr. White," Goku called cheerfully, having somehow managed to complete the article despite his limited understanding of journalism. His natural honesty and straightforward writing style had produced a surprisingly engaging piece about the human impact of infrastructure improvements. Perry read the article with growing amazement. "This is actually good, Kent. Really good. You interviewed actual commuters, got specific examples of how the changes affect their daily lives, and wrote it in language people can understand. When did you develop this kind of human interest angle?" Clark looked at Goku, who was grinning with obvious pride at having successfully completed an alien task. "I've been learning from a friend about the importance of understanding people's perspectives." The day at the Daily Planet proved educational for both of them. Goku gained appreciation for the complexities of maintaining a double life, while Clark discovered that his friend's straightforward honesty could actually enhance rather than compromise investigative journalism. Teaching martial arts to Batman's protégés provided another form of cultural exchange. Robin, Nightwing, and the other members of the Bat family had initially been skeptical about learning techniques from someone whose power was currently suppressed, but Goku's fundamental understanding of combat principles proved invaluable. Martial arts isn't about having the strongest punch, he explained during a training session in the Batcave, demonstrating how proper technique could allow a smaller fighter to redirect and overcome superior strength. It's about understanding energy, yours and your opponent's, and learning to work with that energy rather than against it. Tim Drake was particularly fascinated by the philosophical aspects of Goku's teaching. You're describing combat as if it were a form of communication. It is, Goku replied seriously. Every fight teaches you something about your opponent, their strengths, their fears, their motivations. If you pay attention, you can learn to help them instead of just defeating them. The training sessions often extended late into the night, with Bruce observing and occasionally participating. He found Goku's teaching methods remarkably effective at helping his young protégés develop not just combat skills, but the wisdom to know when and how to use those skills responsibly. One of the most meaningful aspects of Goku's recovery was his involvement in smaller-scale rescues and crisis responses around Metropolis and beyond. While he couldn't access his cosmic-level abilities, his basic martial arts skills, limited ki manipulation, and tactical understanding made him valuable for situations that required precision rather than raw power. During a building collapse in downtown Metropolis, Goku's ability to sense life signatures through debris proved invaluable for locating survivors. His weakened ki projection couldn't move massive chunks of concrete, but it could create small, precise bursts of energy that cleared pathways for rescue workers. There, he said, placing his hand against a pile of rubble and extending his limited ki senses. Two people, approximately 15 feet down, one adult, one child. The adult is unconscious but stable. The child is frightened but uninjured. Superman worked to clear the debris while Goku provided constant updates on the survivors' conditions, his spiritual awareness allowing him to monitor their emotional states as well as their physical well-being. The child is panicking, he reported. The darkness and noise are frightening her. Can you talk to her while you work? Of course, Superman replied, his voice carrying the warm authority that had comforted countless victims over the years. Hello down there, my name is Superman and I'm going to get you out of there safely. Can you tell me your name? Goku listened to the exchange with professional admiration. Superman's ability to project calm confidence while performing complex rescue operations reminded him of the best aspects of his own universe's heroes, the understanding that saving people required more than just power. These smaller-scale operations proved therapeutically valuable for Goku's recovery. Each successful rescue, each person helped, reinforced his sense of purpose and belonging in this strange world. He might be stranded far from home, but he was still making a difference. The breakthrough in his power recovery came during one of these routine rescues. A chemical plant explosion had created a toxic cloud that threatened to engulf a nearby elementary school, and conventional evacuation methods weren't fast enough to get all the children to safety. I can create a ki barrier, Goku said, assessing the situation with professional calm. Not strong enough to stop the cloud completely, but enough to redirect it away from the school. Goku, Superman said with concern, you haven't been able to project ki on that scale Since I need to, Goku interrupted, his expression growing determined. Those kids need protection, and I'm the only one here who can provide it. He extended his hands toward the approaching toxic cloud, reaching deep within himself for the power he'd been unable to access for weeks. The suppression was still there, the psychological barriers his mind had created to protect him from overexertion, but they began to crumble in the face of immediate necessity. A faint blue aura flickered around his form, not the explosive power of his transformations, but the steady, controlled energy of basic ki manipulation. The barrier he created was translucent and shimmering, redirecting the toxic cloud around the school like water flowing around a stone. I can feel it, he said with quiet amazement as the last of the chemical cloud passed harmlessly by. My ki, it's still there, I just needed to remember why I use it. Superman watched with growing excitement as Goku's aura stabilized, the first sign of real recovery he'd shown since their return from the Void Realm. How do you feel? Superman asked. Like myself again, Goku replied with his characteristic grin, not at full strength yet, but connected. The power was never really gone, I just forgot how to reach it. That evening, as they celebrated this breakthrough with a gathering at the Hall of Justice, Batman approached Goku with a particularly significant development. We've made progress on the Dimensional Portal project, he announced, pulling up holographic displays that showed incredibly complex technical schematics. Your ki recovery means we can begin practical testing, but there's something you need to see first. He activated a crystalline communication device that looked suspiciously like Kryptonian technology combined with mother box components. The air above the device shimmered, and slowly, impossibly, an image began to form, not a recording, but a real-time view of another dimension. Goku's heart stopped as he recognized the familiar landscape of his home Earth. Mount Paozu rose majestically in the background, and in the foreground, "Chi-Chi, Goten," he called out, his voice thick with emotion as he saw his family for the first time in months. The image was two-way. Chi-Chi looked up from her cooking with startled amazement, while Goten dropped his textbooks and ran toward the communication device. "Goku," Chi-Chi's voice carried across dimensional barriers with crystal clarity. "Where have you been? Are you all right? You look thinner." "I'm fine," he replied, tears streaming down his face as he drank in the sight of his beloved family. "I'm in another universe, helping some friends with a problem. I'm okay, I promise." Goten pressed close to the viewing screen, his young face bright with excitement. "Dad, are you fighting strong opponents? Did you learn any new techniques?" "I learned something better than techniques," Goku replied, looking around at the Justice League members who had become his friends. "I learned what it means to have people who care about you, even when they don't have to." The conversation continued for nearly an hour, with Chi-Chi providing updates on events in Universe 7, while Goku shared carefully edited stories of his adventures in the DC universe. The emotional reunion was bittersweet, wonderful to see his family again, but painful to be reminded of how far apart they remained. "We're working on a way to bring me home," he assured them as the communication session neared its end. "It might take a while, but I promise I'll figure it out." "We know you will," Chi-Chi said with absolute certainty. "You always find a way back to us." As the connection faded, Goku found himself surrounded by friends who understood exactly what he was going through. Superman's hand on his shoulder carried the weight of someone who knew what it meant to be separated from everything familiar. "We'll get you home," Superman promised. "Whatever it takes." "I know," Goku replied, his voice steady despite the lingering emotion. "But thank you for giving me a place to belong while I figure out how." Their moment of reflection was interrupted by urgent alarms throughout the Hall of Justice. Every screen in the facility lit up with incoming alerts from monitoring stations across the globe, all pointing to the same troubling conclusion. "Massive energy signature approaching Earth," Cyborg reported, his voice carrying familiar tension. "But this one's different from the restoration entity. It's aggressive, and it's specifically targeting dimensional weak points created by our portal experiments." Batman's expression grew grim as he analyzed the incoming data. "Something noticed our attempts to breach dimensional barriers, and it's not happy about our interference." Through the hall's reinforced windows, they could see the sky beginning to darken with unnatural shadows. But this time, instead of the controlled appearance of cosmic entities, reality itself seemed to be tearing apart in ragged, violent ways. "This is different from before," Goku observed, his recovered key senses detecting malevolent intention in the approaching presence. "This isn't just investigation or correction, this is punishment." Wonder Woman's divine senses flared with warnings that made her grip her sword instinctively. "Something approaches that views our salvation of the multiverse as an affront to cosmic order. The final guardian," Batman read from his analysis screens, his voice carrying ominous certainty. "According to the data, it's a cosmic entity whose purpose is to prevent unauthorized changes to multiversal structure. And it considers our intervention in the Void Realm to be the greatest violation of cosmic law in recorded history." Superman looked at Goku, whose power was finally beginning to return but remained far from its peak levels. "How much of your strength is back?" "Maybe 30%, Goku admitted honestly. "Enough to fight, but not enough to win against something cosmic level." "Then we'll have to be smarter instead of stronger," Batman concluded pragmatically. "We saved the multiverse once through teamwork and tactical thinking. We can do it again." As the final Guardian's presence grew stronger and reality began to warp around Earth's dimensional boundaries, the Justice League prepared for what might be their greatest challenge yet. They had saved all existence once through the power of unity and diversity working together. Now they would need to prove that lesson again, against an entity that viewed their very success as a crime against cosmic order. The battle for the right to protect others was about to begin, and this time, the stakes were not just the survival of reality, but the fundamental question of whether mortals had the right to intervene in cosmic affairs when infinite lives hung in the balance. As Goku powered up to his current maximum, still far below his normal capabilities but blazing with renewed purpose, He looked around at his friends and allies with absolute confidence. "Whatever comes next," he said, his aura flickering with the warm blue light of controlled ki, "we face it together. And together, we'll find a way to protect everyone." The final test of their bond across worlds was about to begin. The final Guardian's arrival shattered every expectation the Justice League had formed about cosmic entities. Where the Void Weaver had been alien and incomprehensible, and the Restoration entity had been bureaucratic and procedural, this being radiated an authority so absolute that reality itself seemed to kneel in its presence. It didn't descend from space or materialize through dimensional tiers. Instead, it simply was, suddenly present above Earth as if it had always existed there, waiting for the rest of existence to catch up with its eternal perspective. Its form defied description not because it was constantly changing, but because it was so perfectly, terrifyingly static. Geometric perfection rendered in crystalline light that hurt to perceive directly, yet impossible to look away from. "I am the final guardian," it spoke, its voice carrying the weight of cosmic law that had governed reality since the first universe drew breath. "I am the correction that follows deviation, the balance that restores equilibrium, the silence that follows unauthorized noise." From the watchtower, Batman coordinated the League's response, while every sensor in their arsenal struggled to process readings that transcended conventional physics. "It's not attacking," he reported with grim precision. "It's judging, analyzing our dimensional framework to determine what needs to be corrected." "And by corrected, you mean?" Barry asked, though his restored connection to the Speed Force was already providing uncomfortable answers as he perceived temporal distortions around the entity. "Erased," Superman replied quietly, his enhanced vision detecting energy patterns that spoke of absolute annihilation. "It doesn't want to defeat us or conquer us. It wants to unmake us, as if we never existed." In the Hall of Justice, Goku stood at the window watching the cosmic judge hover above Earth with an expression that mixed determination with growing concern. His key senses painted a disturbing picture. The entity's energy signature was unlike anything he'd encountered, operating on principles that seemed designed specifically to counter his abilities. "It's not interested in any of you," he said quietly as the other League members joined him. "Its attention is focused entirely on me. It sees you as background elements that belong in this reality." Wonder Woman's divine senses confirmed his assessment. "You are the anomaly it has come to correct. Your presence here, your intervention in cosmic affairs, it views these as violations of fundamental law." "Which means," Batman concluded with tactical precision, "this isn't a battle we can win through conventional heroic teamwork. If it only considers Goku to be the problem, it may ignore our attempts to help." "Unless we make ourselves impossible to ignore," Goku replied, his aura beginning to flicker as he accessed more of his recovered power. "In my world, we call it fusion, two or more fighters combining their abilities to create something greater than the sum of their parts." "Actual fusion?" Superman asked. "Like the technique you mentioned where two beings merge into one." "That would be ideal, but the fusion dance requires precise synchronization that takes years to master," Goku admitted. "But there are other ways to combine fighting styles. If we can coordinate our attacks so perfectly that the entity can't tell where one fighter ends and another begins." The final Guardian's attention shifted toward their gathering, its crystalline form rotating with mechanical precision as it focused on Goku specifically. "Anomaly designation, Son Goku of Universe 7. Violation, unauthorized interdimensional intervention. Sentence, complete erasure from all timeline possibilities." It raised what might have been an arm, and space itself began to warp around Goku's position. Not an attack in the conventional sense, but a fundamental alteration of reality that would simply edit him out of existence, as if he had never been born in any universe. "Not happening," Superman declared, his cape billowing as he moved to intercept the erasure field. But the cosmic energy passed through him harmlessly, treating him as part of the natural dimensional framework rather than an obstacle to be overcome. Goku dodged the erasure attempt with movements that flowed like water, his limited ki allowing him to slip between the gaps in reality as space-time rewrote itself around him. "It's like fighting the concept of law itself," he reported, his voice strained from the effort of avoiding fundamental deletion. "Every technique I use, it already has predetermined counters for." "Then don't use techniques it expects," Batman's voice crackled through their communicators. "Your greatest advantage has always been adaptability. Force it to react to something outside its programmed responses." The battle that erupted was unlike anything Earth had ever witnessed. The final guardian attacked with powers that transcended mere energy projection. It wielded the fundamental forces that governed how reality operated, turning physics itself into a weapon. When Goku tried to use instant transmission, the entity simply decreed that space folded differently around him. When he attempted ki projection, it altered the universal constants that allowed energy to exist. But Goku's response demonstrated why he had become the universe's greatest martial artist. Instead of fighting against the altered physics, he adapted his techniques to work within whatever framework the entity imposed. When space folded strangely, he used the distortions to create impossible attack angles. When energy projection was modified, he found new ways to channel ki that operated under the changed constants. Remarkable, Wonder Woman observed as she watched Goku flow through a reality where up and down had been reversed, his movements remaining perfectly balanced despite the cosmic scale alterations. He fights not against change, but with change. That's the key, Goku called out as he narrowly avoided an attack that would have erased his existence across 17 different timelines. It expects me to resist the alterations, to try to impose my reality's physics on this situation. But if I accept whatever rules it creates and adapt my fighting to match. He demonstrated by launching what appeared to be a standard Kamehameha wave, but one modified to work under the final Guardian's altered physics. The beam curved through impossible dimensions, struck targets that didn't exist in normal space, and somehow managed to connect with the entity despite traveling through a reality where cause and effect had been reversed. The final Guardian's form flickered, not with damage, but with what might have been surprise. Adaptation rate exceeds calculated parameters, recalibrating countermeasures. Now, Batman's voice cut through the chaos with tactical precision. While it's focused on adapting to Goku's techniques, we implement coordinated support. Superman, use your heat vision to create energy matrices that complement his ki projections. Diana, channel divine power through the paths his attacks create. Bari, use speed force manipulation to accelerate whatever techniques he deploys. The Justice League moved with precision born of countless battles fought together, but this time they were supporting rather than leading the assault. Superman's heat vision didn't attack the final Guardian directly. Instead, it created energy frameworks that amplified and focused Goku's ki techniques. Wonder Woman's divine power flowed through the channels Goku's attacks carved in space-time, adding mythological weight to martial arts mastery. Bari's speed force manipulation accelerated not just Goku's movements, but the philosophical concepts underlying his techniques. "It's working," Cyborg reported from his position coordinating technological support. The entity's targeting systems are designed to counter individual techniques, but it's struggling to adapt to your combined approach. The final Guardian's perfect crystalline form began to show signs of strain as it attempted to process attack patterns that defied its understanding of how combat should function. Each technique was simultaneously Goku's martial arts, Superman's heroic determination, Wonder Woman's divine wisdom, and Bari's optimistic energy. "Impossible," the entity declared, its voice carrying harmonics of frustrated confusion. "Individual techniques cannot merge without fusion protocols. This violates fundamental combat mathematics." "That's because you're thinking about fighting all wrong," Goku replied, his movements now perfectly synchronized with his teammates as they flowed around the entity's increasingly desperate attacks. "Combat isn't mathematics, it's art, and art is about expressing something that can't be calculated." To demonstrate his point, he began teaching his technique integration philosophy to the entire team simultaneously, mid-battle. "Superman, don't just support my attacks, let your heat vision express your desire to protect people. Diana, channel not just divine power, but the warrior's heart that drives you to fight for justice. Bari, use the speed force to carry the hope that makes you believe everyone can be saved." The transformation in their coordinated assault was immediate and profound. What had been tactical cooperation became something deeper, a shared expression of everything they believed in, channeled through combat techniques that operated on levels beyond mere physical interaction. Superman's heat vision carried the warmth of Kansas' summer days and Martha Kent's unconditional love. Wonder Woman's divine energy blazed with the wisdom of Athena and the compassion of Hippolyta. Bari's speed force manipulation moved with the infectious optimism that made him believe every crisis could become a victory. And Goku's ki techniques bound it all together with the pure martial arts philosophy that had driven him since childhood, the understanding that true strength came not from power, but from the desire to protect what mattered most. The final Guardian found itself facing something its cosmic programming had never anticipated. Not techniques that could be countered, but expressions of spirit that couldn't be calculated or contained. "Your approach violates fundamental constants," it protested, its attacks becoming increasingly erratic as it struggled to counter assault patterns that changed based on emotional states rather than tactical considerations. "Good," Goku replied with his characteristic grin, even as he flowed through attack sequences that existed in 17 dimensions simultaneously. The best techniques are the ones that break the rules. But even as their coordinated assault overwhelmed the final Guardian's defenses, Goku could sense his body approaching its current limits. His power recovery was remarkable, but months of suppression had left him unable to access his highest transformation levels. When he reached for Super Saiyan 3's explosive power, he found only flickering instability. An Ultra Instinct remained frustratingly beyond his grasp. "I can't maintain this much longer," he admitted, his aura beginning to waver as energy expenditure approached his reduced capacity. "My transformations. They're still not stable enough for extended cosmic-level combat." "Then we don't give you time to run out of power," Batman declared, his tactical mind shifting to endgame scenarios. Coordinated final assault. Everyone channels maximum power through Goku's technique framework simultaneously. "That's incredibly dangerous," Wonder Woman protested. "Channeling that much diverse energy through one person's technique matrix could tear him apart at the cellular level." "Or it could work," Goku replied with the confidence of someone who had made impossible techniques function through sheer determination. "In my world, the most powerful attacks are the ones where everyone contributes everything they have. Spirit Bomb, Universal Spirit Bomb, they work because every living thing chooses to share their energy for a common cause." "This is different," Superman warned. "We're not just sharing energy, we're asking you to channel our fundamental natures through your martial arts philosophy." "I know," Goku said simply, "and I trust all of you enough to try it." What happened next would be remembered as the moment when interdimensional cooperation achieved its perfect expression. Superman didn't just contribute his strength, he offered the entirety of his hope for humanity's potential. Wonder Woman provided not just divine power, but the accumulated wisdom of Amazon culture spanning millennia. Barry channeled not just speed force energy, but the infectious optimism that made him believe every problem had a solution. Goku received all of this, the hopes, dreams, wisdom, and determination of his adopted family, and wove it together through martial arts techniques that operated on principles of spiritual harmony rather than physical force. The resulting attack transcended conventional energy projection. It was a Kamehameha wave that carried the warmth of every sunset Clark had watched from his parents' farm. It moved with the precision of Diana's perfect warrior training and the speed of Bari's unwavering faith in positive outcomes. Most importantly, it expressed Goku's fundamental philosophy that every being deserved the chance to grow, change, and become something better. The final Guardian, faced with an assault that challenged not just its power, but its entire understanding of how conflict should function, made a choice that surprised everyone, including itself. Instead of countering the attack, it analyzed the philosophical framework underlying the technique. Instead of imposing corrections, it studied the wisdom embedded in their cooperative approach. And instead of enforcing cosmic law through elimination, it began to understand the value of allowing anomalies that created rather than destroyed. "Fascinating," it said as the combined assault washed over its crystalline form without causing damage. "Your technique operates on principles that enhance cosmic stability rather than threatening it. The anomaly creates beneficial rather than destructive change." Goku powered down from his maximum output, swaying slightly from exhaustion but grinning with satisfaction. "That's what I've been trying to tell every cosmic entity I've met. Being different doesn't mean being dangerous. Sometimes the best solutions come from outside the normal rules." The final Guardian's form began to shift, its rigid crystalline perfection softening into something more organic, more alive. "I have reviewed the multiversal changes resulting from your intervention. Reality is not more unstable, it is more vibrant. Diversity of approach has enhanced rather than threatened cosmic balance." "So, we're not in trouble anymore?" Bari asked with characteristic directness. "You are no longer classified as anomalies requiring correction," the entity confirmed. "You are now designated as beneficial variables contributing to multiversal stability through innovative problem-solving methodologies." Batman allowed himself a rare smile behind his cowl. "In other words, we've been officially approved for interdimensional heroics." As the final guardian prepared to depart, it turned its attention to the dimensional portal research that had initially attracted its notice. Your attempts to create stable interdimensional passages have been noted and approved. The barriers between your reality and Universe 7 have been strengthened and calibrated to allow for controlled transit. Goku's heart leaped with sudden hope. You mean, the portal technology you have developed will function safely and efficiently, the entity confirmed. Dimensional barriers are now stable enough to permit your return home without threatening cosmic balance. For the first time since arriving in the DC universe, Goku felt the overwhelming possibility of seeing his family again becoming reality rather than distant hope. However, the final guardian continued, such transit requires enormous energy expenditure and can only be maintained for brief periods. You will have one opportunity to return to your home dimension. The implications were clear. This would be a one-way trip. If Goku returned home, he might never be able to visit his friends in the DC universe again. Superman placed a hand on Goku's shoulder, recognizing the conflict his friend was experiencing. We'll find a way to maintain contact between our universes. This isn't goodbye forever. I know, Goku replied, though his voice carried the weight of someone contemplating permanent separation from people who had become family. But first, we need to make sure the portal actually works. As the final guardian departed with a final declaration that their beneficial anomaly status would be maintained throughout the cosmic hierarchy, the Justice League found themselves facing a bittersweet victory. They had saved the multiverse, gained cosmic approval for their heroic methods, and created the possibility for Goku to return home. But they had also reached the moment when their extraordinary friendship would be tested by the reality of dimensional barriers that even cosmic entities couldn't eliminate entirely. How long before the portal is ready? Goku asked, though part of him wasn't sure he wanted to know the answer. 48 hours, Batman replied after consulting with Cyborg's calculations. We need that long to calibrate the dimensional resonance frequencies and charge the power matrices to sustainable levels. 48 hours, Goku repeated quietly, looking around at the friends who had become his family in this strange world. Then I guess we make them count. As Earth's sun set behind the familiar skyline of Metropolis, painting the sky in brilliant oranges and purples that reminded Goku of similar sunsets over Mount Paozu, the warrior from Universe 7 prepared to face the most difficult choice of his life. He could go home to the family he loved more than existence itself. But doing so would mean leaving behind the friends who had taught him new ways to be a hero, new approaches to protecting others, and new understanding of what it meant to find family among strangers. The next 48 hours would be the most precious of his interdimensional adventure and the most painful. The countdown to departure had begun, but first, there were bonds to strengthen, lessons to share, and memories to create that would last across any distance between worlds. The final chapter of Goku's journey in the DC universe was about to unfold, and it would test not his strength or his techniques, but his heart. The 48 hours before Goku's departure passed both too quickly and too slowly, each moment precious beyond measure yet weighted with the approaching inevitability of separation. The Fortress of Solitude had become a hive of activity as the combined intellects of two universes worked to perfect the dimensional portal technology. But for Goku, the technical preparations were secondary to the far more important process of saying goodbye. He sat in the fortress's crystalline halls with Superman, both men sharing a comfortable silence as they watched the sun rise over Earth's horizon through the massive viewport. It would be one of the last sunrises Goku would see in this reality, and the simple beauty of it felt more precious than any cosmic battle they'd fought together. I keep thinking about the first time we met, Clark said quietly, his voice carrying the weight of someone processing profound loss. You fell through the Daily Planet ceiling, worried more about whether anyone was hurt than about your own condition. That told me everything I needed to know about who you were. And you pretended to be just a regular reporter, Goku replied with a gentle smile, even though I could sense how strong you really were. I spent weeks trying to figure out why you'd hide something that amazing. Do you understand it now? Goku considered the question, his brown eyes reflecting thoughtful understanding. You weren't hiding your strength, you were protecting people you cared about. Different approach, same goal, we both just want to keep everyone safe. They talked for hours about their respective worlds, their families, their understanding of heroism. Clark shared stories of growing up in Smallville, of learning to control powers that could accidentally devastate everything around him. Goku talked about his training under Master Roshi, his first tournament, the simple joy of discovering new techniques and worthy opponents. The strangest part, Goku admitted as their conversation wound down, is that I came here by accident, but I feel like I learned things I couldn't have discovered any other way. Fighting alongside all of you, seeing how you approach problems differently, it's made me a better martial artist and a better hero. You've changed us too, Clark replied with absolute sincerity. Your perspective on conflict resolution, your ability to see potential allies in enemies, your joy in facing challenges, you've made all of us better at what we do. Their moment of reflection was interrupted by Batman's approach, his cape rustling softly against the crystalline floor. Bruce carried a small device that looked like a combination of mother box technology and Kryptonian crystals, its surface pulsing with gentle blue light. Interdimensional communicator, he explained, offering the device to Goku. Theoretical range is unlimited, though actual connectivity will depend on dimensional stability between our realities. It should allow limited contact after you return home. Goku accepted the device with hands that trembled slightly, the weight of it representing both connection and separation. Thank you, Bruce, this means everything. Don't thank me yet, Batman replied with his characteristic pragmatism. The technology is untested across dimensional barriers this significant. There's no guarantee it will work consistently. It'll work, Goku said with absolute certainty, because all of you built it and you don't give up on the people you care about. Wonder Woman arrived shortly after, carrying her sword and shield, but also something far more precious, a scroll covered in elegant script that seemed to shimmer with divine energy. Amazon blessing for safe travels, she explained, unrolling the parchment to reveal words written in ancient Greek. It's a warrior's prayer, asking the gods to watch over you and guide you home safely. Even across dimensional barriers, the blessing of Olympus should provide some protection. Goku accepted the scroll with the reverence it deserved, recognizing the profound honor she was offering him. In my world, warriors don't usually get blessings from gods. Thank you, Diana, I'll treasure this. You have earned the respect of every pantheon, Wonder Woman replied solemnly. Your victory over the Void Weaver will be remembered in divine halls across infinite realities. You are welcome among the Amazons always, should you ever find a way to return. Barry arrived in a crackling display of speed force energy, skidding to a halt beside them with his arms full of what appeared to be every piece of Earth fast food he could acquire in a single run across the globe. Going away feast, he announced breathlessly, setting down bags from dozens of restaurants representing cuisines from around the world. I figured you should try everything Earth has to offer before you leave. Barry, Goku said with genuine emotion, you didn't have to. Yes, I did, Barry interrupted with characteristic determination. Food is how we show we care, right? Besides, I got curious about whether there's anything on Earth that could match your appetite. What followed was perhaps the most important meal of Goku's interdimensional adventure. Not because the food was exceptional, though some of it was remarkable, but because it represented his friend's understanding of what mattered to him. They had observed his joy in discovering new flavors, his appreciation for the care that went into preparing meals, his belief that sharing food was one of the fundamental ways people connected with each other. As they worked their way through cuisines from across Earth, each dish became a story, a memory, a moment of connection that would persist across any dimensional barrier. Thai curry that reminded Goku of spicy food from planet Namek. Italian pasta that carried the warmth of family gatherings. Japanese ramen that tasted almost like dishes from his own Earth, but with subtle differences that made them uniquely precious. This has been, Goku paused, searching for words adequate to describe the experience of finding family among strangers, the most amazing adventure I've ever had. Not because of the fighting, though that was incredible, but because of all of you. Cyborg joined them as the meal wound down, his technological components interfacing with the Fortress's systems to provide real-time updates on the portal preparation. Dimensional calibration is 97% complete, he reported. Energy matrices are charging ahead of schedule. We should be ready for activation in approximately 6 hours. The reality of departure settled over them like a weight, transforming their celebration into something more bittersweet. 6 hours until Goku could go home to his family, but also 6 hours until he would leave friends who had become equally important to him. Before you go, Superman said, rising from their impromptu feast, there's one more thing we want to share with you. He led them to the fortress's main hall, where a massive holographic display showed real-time images from across Earth. News feeds, social media posts, amateur videos, all depicting the same remarkable phenomenon. Around the globe, ordinary people were helping each other with a frequency and enthusiasm that defied statistical probability. Neighbors were checking on elderly residents without being asked. Strangers were helping with groceries, with car troubles, with simple acts of keenness that created ripple effects throughout their communities. Children were resolving playground conflicts through discussion rather than fighting. Adults were approaching disagreements with curiosity rather than anger. It started about 2 weeks after our Void Realm adventure, Batman explained, his analytical mind still processing the implications. Statistically impossible improvements in cooperative behavior, conflict resolution, and community support across every demographic and geographic region. How is that possible? Goku asked, though he suspected he already knew the answer. During the final battle with the Void Weaver, Wonder Woman said with growing amazement, when you channeled the combined hopes and dreams of infinite realities through your key techniques. Some of that energy remained in our dimensional framework. Not as power, but as understanding. People can sense it, Bari added excitedly. Not consciously, but at some level, everyone on Earth now knows what it feels like when different beings choose to work together instead of fighting. Your philosophy, that diversity makes unity stronger. It's literally part of our reality's fundamental structure now. Goku stared at the images of Earth's population embracing cooperation with newfound enthusiasm, his heart swelling with pride and wonder. He had saved the multiverse through combat, but apparently his most lasting victory was teaching an entire world a better way to resolve conflicts. "This is incredible," he whispered, watching a news report about international disputes being resolved through collaborative problem-solving rather than political maneuvering. "You didn't just protect our reality," Superman said with deep emotion. "You made it better. Every person on Earth is a little wiser, a little more compassionate, a little more willing to see other perspectives because of what you did." Their celebration was interrupted by urgent alarms throughout the fortress as long-range sensors detected massive energy signatures approaching Earth's dimensional boundary. But these weren't cosmic entities or interdimensional threats. They were something far more familiar and far more dangerous. "Space pirates," Batman reported grimly, his sensors identifying the approaching fleet. Approximately 50 vessels, all heavily armed, they're attracted to the dimensional portal's energy signature. "Space pirates?" Goku asked, his expression brightening with sudden interest. "Interdimensional raiders who follow energy signatures between realities, looking for advanced technology to steal," Cyborg explained. "The portal we're preparing is putting out enormous amounts of exotic energy. To them, it looks like the ultimate treasure. And they're armed with weapons designed to function across multiple realities," Superman added with concern. "Conventional defense systems won't be effective against their technology." Goku's aura began to flicker as he accessed his recovered power, his characteristic grin spreading across his face. "One last adventure before I go home. This is perfect." "Goku," Wonder Woman warned, "your power levels still aren't at full strength. Are you sure you can handle an entire pirate fleet?" "Not alone," he replied, looking around at his friends with absolute confidence. "But together, we've got this." What followed was the most perfectly coordinated battle the Justice League had ever fought. Months of training together, learning each other's techniques, and developing trust had created a team dynamic that transcended their individual abilities. Superman and Goku worked in perfect synchronization, their combined strength and speed allowing them to disable multiple pirate vessels simultaneously. Clark's heat vision created energy matrices that focused and amplified Goku's key techniques, while Goku's instant transmission allowed him to position Superman for maximum tactical advantage. Wonder Woman and Bari formed their own devastating partnership, Diana's divine-enhanced combat skills complemented by Bari's speed-force manipulation. They moved through the pirate fleet like a force of nature, Wonder Woman's perfect warrior technique enhanced by Bari's ability to accelerate her movements and weapons to impossible velocities. Batman coordinated the entire battle from the Watchtower, his tactical genius allowing him to predict pirate movement patterns and position his teammates for maximum effectiveness. His voice crackled through their communicators with precision-timed instructions that turned individual heroics into flawless team performance. "Goku, 3 vessels approaching from Sector 7. Superman, heat vision support on my mark. Diana, Bari needs speed-force acceleration for penetrating their shield matrix. Cyborg, target their dimensional anchors, cut off their escape route." The battle became a symphony of cooperation, each hero's abilities enhanced and focused by their teammates' support. Goku found himself fighting not just with his own techniques, but with combat philosophy that had been enriched by months of training alongside Earth's greatest heroes. His martial arts now incorporated tactical thinking he'd learned from Batman, heroic determination he'd absorbed from Superman, warrior wisdom he'd gained from Wonder Woman, and optimistic persistence he'd developed through friendship with Barry. But the pirate's most powerful vessel, a massive dreadnought armed with reality disruption weapons, proved too heavily defended for conventional assault. Its shields operated by phasing between dimensions, making it effectively untouchable by attacks from any single reality. "I've got an idea," Goku announced, powering up to his current maximum as silver light began to flicker around his aura. "But I'm going to need everyone to trust me completely." "Ultra Instinct?" Superman asked, recognizing the signs of Goku's ultimate transformation. "Not quite," Goku replied, his voice carrying new harmonics as his consciousness began to expand. "Something better, something we developed together." What he achieved in that moment transcended individual transformation. Instead of accessing Ultra Instinct through pure martial mastery, he channeled the technique through the bonds he'd formed with the Justice League. His silver aura carried traces of Superman's hope, Wonder Woman's wisdom, Batman's determination, Barry's optimism, and Cyborg's innovative thinking. This wasn't Ultra Instinct as it existed in his home universe. This was something new, something that could only exist in a reality where he'd learned to fight alongside heroes who approached challenges from completely different perspectives. "Ultra Instinct Unity," he announced, his voice carrying harmonics that resonated with every member of the Justice League simultaneously. In this perfected state, Goku didn't just move with perfect martial efficiency. He moved with perfect understanding of how his actions could enhance and be enhanced by his teammates' abilities. Every technique he used created opportunities for the others to contribute their unique strengths. Every dodge, every counter, every attack became part of a larger pattern that maximized their collective effectiveness. The pirate dreadnought, faced with assault patterns that adapted in real time to incorporate the philosophical approaches of multiple heroes, found its reality phasing defenses useless. Goku's techniques existed simultaneously in every dimension the ship could access, while his teammates provided support that operated on principles the pirate's technology couldn't counter. Superman's heat vision carried the warmth of Kansas farmhouse mornings. Wonder Woman's divine energy blazed with the accumulated wisdom of Amazon culture. Barry's speed force manipulation moved with infectious optimism that made impossible solutions seem inevitable. Batman's tactical coordination provided strategic framework that turned individual heroics into devastating team effectiveness. The Dreadnought's shields collapsed under assault patterns that defied its programming, and the remaining pirate vessels retreated rather than face opponents who fought with such perfect unity. As the threat departed and Goku powered down from his enhanced Ultra Instinct state, the Justice League found themselves staring at their friend with newfound amazement. "That wasn't the same Ultra Instinct you used against the Void Weaver," Wonder Woman observed. "No," Goku agreed, swaying slightly from the energy expenditure but grinning with satisfaction. "That was something new, something that could only exist because I learned to fight alongside all of you. Ultra Instinct enhanced by the bonds between warriors who trust each other completely. Will you be able to use that technique in your own universe?" Batman asked with analytical curiosity. Goku considered the question thoughtfully. "Maybe, but it would be different there, enhanced by my bonds with Vegeta, Piccolo, Gohan, and the others. Each reality creates its own version of perfect technique, shaped by the relationships that matter most." Their moment of reflection was interrupted by Cyborg's announcement that the dimensional portal had reached full operational status. "We're ready for activation," he reported. "Portal can maintain stability for exactly 30 minutes before energy drain becomes unsustainable." The moment they had all been dreading and anticipating had finally arrived. Goku could go home to his family, but doing so would mean leaving friends who had become equally precious to him. They gathered in the fortress's main chamber, where the dimensional portal hummed with barely contained energy. The gateway itself was beautiful in its complexity, crystalline frameworks channeling Mother Box technology, all focused around a shimmering aperture that showed glimpses of familiar landscape from Universe 7. Through the portal's shimmering surface, they could see Mount Paozu in the distance, and more importantly, two figures standing in front of the Sun family home. Chi-Chi and Goten were waiting, having somehow sensed that this was the moment of Goku's return. "There they are," Goku whispered, his voice thick with emotion as he saw his family for the first time in months outside of brief communication sessions. "Go," Superman said gently, placing a hand on his friend's shoulder. "They've been waiting long enough." but Goku hesitated, looking around at the friends who had become his family in this strange reality. I don't know how to say goodbye to people who saved my life in every way that matters. Then don't, Batman replied with uncharacteristic warmth. This isn't goodbye, it's until we meet again. Wonder Woman stepped forward, offering a warrior salute that carried the respect of ages. You will always have a place among Earth's defenders, son Goku. In any reality, in any universe, you are our brother in arms. Barry vibrated slightly with barely contained emotion. Promise me you'll keep training. When we figure out regular interdimensional travel, I want that rematch. And I want to meet your family, Superman added. Chi-Chi and Goten, they deserve to know what an incredible husband and father they have. Goku embraced each of them in turn, Superman's hug carrying the warmth of solar energy, Wonder Woman's carrying the strength of divine blessing, Batman's carrying the rare gift of trust earned through shared struggle, Barry's crackling with speed force energy that somehow felt like bottled optimism. Thank you, he said simply, the words carrying everything he couldn't express. For believing in me, for fighting beside me, for showing me new ways to be a hero. I'll never forget any of you. He stepped toward the portal, then paused, looking back with his characteristic grin. Oh, and Clark, next time you visit another universe, don't worry so much about secret identities. Sometimes the best way to protect people is to let them see exactly who you really are. With that final piece of wisdom, Goku stepped through the dimensional gateway and was gone, leaving behind friends who had been enriched by knowing him and taking with him lessons that would enhance his heroism for the rest of his life. Epilogue DC Universe 6 months after Goku's departure, the Hall of Justice unveiled a new addition to its memorial displays. In the center of the main rotunda, a holographic statue showed 5 figures standing together: Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman, Flash, and a warrior in an orange gi whose arms were crossed in confident determination. The plaque beneath reads simply, Son Goku, Guardian of Two Worlds, saved all realities through unity and diversity. The interdimensional communicator Batman had created functioned better than expected, allowing limited but regular contact between the universes. Goku's updates were always enthusiastic: training sessions with Vegeta, family dinners with Chi-Chi and Goten, new techniques he'd developed by incorporating lessons learned from the Justice League. Most remarkably, the philosophical approaches he'd learned in the DC universe began spreading throughout Universe 7. Conflict resolution through understanding rather than dominance. Unity through diversity rather than uniformity. The strength that came from different people choosing to work together while maintaining their individual beauty. The Justice League continued to use techniques Goku had taught them, their effectiveness as heroes enhanced by key sensing, tactical cooperation, and the understanding that the best victories were the ones where everyone got to keep existing. Epilogue Universe 7 Chi-Chi was in the middle of preparing dinner when reality tore open in her backyard, and her husband stepped through looking exactly the same as the day he'd disappeared, except for a small crystal device tucked into his belt and a scroll case hanging from his shoulder. I'm home, he said simply, his grin carrying all the warmth and love she remembered. The reunion was everything he'd dreamed of during lonely nights in an alien reality. Chi-Chi's embrace carried the security of home, while Goten's excitement at hearing stories of interdimensional adventure reminded Goku why he fought so hard to protect the people he loved. Tell me everything, Chi-Chi demanded as they sat down to the first family dinner they'd shared in months. Where were you? Are you hurt? And what's that strange device you're carrying? It's a long story, Goku said, pulling out the interdimensional communicator to show his family images of the friends he'd made. But the short version is, I made some incredible friends in another universe, learned new ways to be a hero, and discovered that the best techniques are the ones that bring people together instead of driving them apart. Vegeta's arrival through the window, some things never changed, provided the perfect opportunity to demonstrate some of the new techniques he'd developed. The Saiyan prince was initially skeptical of combat methods that incorporated philosophical cooperation, but his tune changed quickly when Goku's enhanced Ultra Instinct unity proved impossible to counter through conventional means. Kakarot, Vegeta declared after their sparring session ended in mutual exhaustion, I don't know what kind of training you did in that other universe, but you've become insufferably more effective. Thanks, Vegeta. That means a lot coming from you. But the most meaningful change was in how Goku approached challenges that threatened Earth or the universe. Instead of simply powering up to meet each new threat, he began incorporating the tactical thinking he'd learned from Batman, the diplomatic wisdom he'd gained from Wonder Woman, the innovative problem-solving he'd developed alongside Cyborg. When the next cosmic threat arrived, a dimension-conquering entity that fed on conflict between realities. Goku's response demonstrated everything he'd learned from his interdimensional adventure. Instead of fighting the entity, he talked to it. Instead of defeating it through superior power, he showed it a better way to exist. Instead of saving the universe through individual heroism, he coordinated with every available fighter to create a solution that protected everyone. The interdimensional communicator allowed him to maintain contact with the Justice League, sharing updates and occasionally requesting tactical advice from Batman or philosophical guidance from Superman. These conversations enriched both realities, creating connections between universes that enhanced their collective ability to face whatever challenges might arise. Final scene as the sun set over Mount Paozu, painting the sky in brilliant oranges and purples that reminded him of similar sunsets over Metropolis. Goku sat on his roof with Chi-Chi and Goten, watching the stars emerge in the darkening sky. "Do you miss them?" Chi-Chi asked softly, understanding that her husband had formed bonds in that other reality that would last forever. "Every day," Goku replied honestly. "But I'm grateful for the time we had together, and for the ways they made me a better hero and a better person." He activated the interdimensional communicator, the crystal device projecting a small hologram that showed the Justice League gathered around their conference table. They were obviously in the middle of planning some new mission, but they paused their discussion to wave at the camera. "How's the family, Goku?" Superman's voice carried clearly across dimensional barriers. "Perfect," Goku replied, gesturing to Chi-Chi and Goten. "Chi-Chi, Goten, meet my friends from the other universe. Everyone, meet the family I told you so much about." The conversation that followed bridged not just dimensional barriers, but the fundamental differences between realities. Two universes, previously isolated from each other, now connected by bonds of friendship that transcended any physical separation. As the communication session ended and the hologram faded, Goku looked up at the stars with absolute contentment. He was home with the family he loved more than existence itself, but he carried with him the wisdom and friendship of heroes from another world. Somewhere across the dimensional divide, his friends in the Justice League were looking up at their own stars, knowing that no matter how vast the multiverse might be, the bonds they'd forged would endure forever. Both universes were safer and stronger for having experienced the collision of different approaches to heroism. Both realities had been enriched by learning that diversity truly did make unity more beautiful. And in the space between worlds, where the Void Weaver had once sought to impose uniformity through consumption, something better had taken root. The understanding that the greatest strength came not from being the same, but from choosing to work together while celebrating what made each being unique. Goku, guardian of two worlds, had returned home. But the adventures that began with his interdimensional accident would continue forever, written in the bonds between heroes who had learned that friendship could transcend any barrier the multiverse might place between them. The greatest victory wasn't defeating cosmic threats or saving realities. It was proving that beings from completely different worlds could find family in each other, and that the best way to protect what you love is to fight alongside people who love something just as much. As Earth's moon rose over Mount Paozu and similar moons rose over Metropolis in another reality entirely, two universes settled into peaceful rest, knowing they were no longer alone in the vast expanse of the multiverse. The story of Goku and the Justice League had ended, but the friendship that made it possible would last forever. The end. And there you have it, Goku's journey from crash landing through the Daily Planet to becoming guardian of two worlds. From confusing Clark's glasses for secret techniques to teaching the Justice League that diversity makes unity unstoppable. What was your favorite moment? The first meeting with Superman, the Void Weaver showdown, or that insane Ultra Instinct Unity technique? Drop your thoughts below. Subscribe for more epic crossovers and let me know what concepts you want to see next. Peace out, and remember, the best victories are the ones where everyone gets to keep existing.